Yeah.
I don't know if these are on, but we can probably all hear each other. Are we missing Mark? Okay. Is he? Where's Mark? I haven't seen Mark. Mark, what? Wheeler? But he'll be here. Okay. Welcome, everybody. Work sessions are an opportunity for board members to discuss issues informally with staff and invited guests. The board encourages members of the public to attend work sessions and listen to the discussion, but there's generally no opportunity for public comment. Members of the public wishing to address the board are welcome to do so during the board's regularly scheduled meetings. And this is a meeting of the Jail Citizen Advisory Committee. How about if everybody introduces themselves?
I'm Emil Hamid. I'm the project manager hired by the county for the relocation of the jail.
Either way.
Follow the bench.
Jerry Ostermiller, retired executive director of Columbia River Maritime Museum, and for some reason ended up being the chairman of the Citizens Advisory Committee.
Imagine that.
I'm Pam Webb, Clatsop County Commissioner, District 3.
Leanne Thompson, Clatsop County Commissioner, District 5.
Sarah Nebuchadnezzar, Clatsop County Commissioner, District 2.
Kathleen Sullivan, Clatsop County Commissioner, District 4.
Patricia Roberts, former county commissioner and promoter of the new jail, and I'm on the Citizen Advisory Committee. Thank you.
All right. So we have a presentation.
We do. I think what we plan on doing is Jerry would like to talk about his experience and what he's seen the community advisory.
Okay, I'll try to be as brief as I can, and don't be shy about telling me my kindness. I've been called the mouth of the Columbia River for good reason. But I wanted to share a couple of things with you about our team. And I didn't know quite what to expect at our first meeting when we all circled the wagons and sat down with their long-term planning team, got into the nuts and bolts of this project. But by great fortune, we have a really strong team of different individuals that bring different perspectives. We have somebody that understands the importance of the social political milieu and is determined to make sure that this project meets all of the promises that were made in the bonding issue. And beyond that, actually addresses some of the social political environments that modern people today would like to see is incorporated into any new development in our community. She's been very active in probing these different issues, everything from greening projects to the social environment for both the staff and the inmates and that sort of thing. We also have on our team a couple of very experienced contractors and builders who understand the language of construction and the different stages of construction and how they're supposed to fit together in a way to be productive. And they've been very vocal about asking pretty sharp questions about where we're at in the process. Did you do this? Did you do that? How does this work? Let's talk about contingency funds in case something comes up that's unplanned, all of that sort of stuff. So we've got that part covered as well. And I think that's a real strength, and I'm really happy to see that. I come with my own biases as well, and it's more process, because I've been lucky or unlucky to have been involved with a multi-million-dollar rehab project for a National Trust program in Idaho that took me 5 years. Very complex. And I also was able to do a $5 million remodeling of the Columbia River Maritime Museum, including raising it. And I learned a lot about the right way and the wrong way and what it doesn't. So I'm really interested in the process. So all of us have met with this group monthly with an entire team that they have in process to take each one of these steps, not only getting brain dumps from them, but they've been very good about opening the door and allowing us to be ourselves and pursue, probe any questions we have about how this project is going until we're satisfied we got it. So In a nutshell, just to set the tone of this, it's been a very good experience. I'm actually stunned by what I've witnessed. I was unsure whether or not someone dumped a whole bunch of money into an organization it's not used to building, what their reaction is going to be. Because I've found that there's two basic modes. One mode is you just hire somebody, say, here's millions of dollars, we don't know how to do this, build us whatever we need to make us whole. That's actually more common than not. And everybody just hopes that they've got the right architect and the right crew and it's all going to work. Better technique, which requires a whole lot more energy but is way more powerful and efficient, is a total engagement technique. And so what they do is they go around and to other sites that have had similar opportunities, do walking tours of those facilities, ask everybody from the janitor on up, the good, bad, and ugly, what works, what doesn't work, how did this go for you? Do their own analysis of this was kind of dumb, or why did they do this, or wow, what a great idea, maybe we can do this. Site visits. The other part is aggressive engagement with the partners that have been hired to execute the plan. But what I mean by that is challenging every concept that comes to the table, every architectural drawing. Well, why are we doing it this way? What if we do this and this instead? Maybe we'd actually get more bang for the buck. Could this work? That type of approach always results in a good project. And I can testify to that because I took my best staff and I flew to 10 different museums in the United States that just reinvented themselves and went through that process. And what I saw is that engagement always had good results. Those who threw themselves on the mercy of somebody else, maybe, sorta, but never as good as those who were engaged. And the reason for that is really simple. If you don't know what you want, how are the staff that you engage going to know what you want? You've really got to know what you want, and that motivation is really important. So what did I see? I saw exactly the best practices in place. I was sitting here in that very first meeting, I was going, well, I've got the easiest job in the world because they're not screwing up. They're doing this the right way. And everything I've seen has reinforced that. And let me share some notions with you. How many plan revisions to maximize the bond dollars in such a way that they actually exceed the commitments and the promises made to the people who bonded the program?
Can I just interrupt you?
Yes.
Are we recording this? Are we broadcasting this so that if everybody else wants to listen to it, they can hear it? This is being captured. So if people in Clatsop County, the taxpayers who are paying for this, want to hear the report, they're able to do that. Thank you. I just didn't want to lose what you were saying.
Okay, yeah, that's great. So did these guys revise these plans, or you just accept the first plan that was given to them? Well, it turns out there were 6 different major revisions after the bond passed. Now, that's huge. You expect 1 or 2 or 3. No. Relentless. We're going to get every last drop of blood out of this turnip, and it's going to be the good and the benefit for all. Okay, next question. How many meetings with the general contractor? 14 so far, as the time I asked the question. 9 with the architect meetings in Astoria, and 5 important. 14 face-to-face meetings to go over this stuff. How many leadership meetings? And I mean by leadership meetings, there's a team that's put together by the sheriff's office that has key personnel, and it's pretty large. And they're meeting weekly. And they go over all of this stuff. First meeting was in 2/11/2019, and they've been weekly. And they go over 35 of these meetings for full staffing. How many partners were consulted to ensure that all vested interests were included? That's an important, very important one. You don't want to do this in a vacuum. The whole idea of county management is relating to the people and the taxpayers of the county. and to make sure that we're doing the right things that result in the greatest possible. So, starting with the staff at the sheriff's office, virtually half of everybody that works in the sheriff's office has been interviewed and invited to participate in formal planning meetings. And these meetings were not standard number 14 for drill. They were serious. What are we doing? What do you think of this idea? What do you think of that idea? Where are we going with this? What's your take on this? And it's all being digested. This includes reserve corrections deputies that aren't even full-time, as well as external partners in the community that have a vested interest in the outcome of this project. Now, I'll just share with some of these. Dr. Little, one of the best doctors who does most of all the medical treatment for inmates, and he was emergency room doctor. He was my family doctor when I ran the museum. Great guy. And both nurses are part of this team. Jeanette Shacher, director of clinics at Columbia Memorial Hospital. Judge Paula Brownhill. He certainly would have a notion about how this should go. Lee Merrill, trial court administrator. Kirk Wintermute, defense attorney, and I think he's running for the judge's position. Chris Cano, with defense attorney. You know, defense attorneys want to know what's going to happen with their clients. Are they going to be taken care of? Are they going to be handled properly? Are their clients going to be exposed to an adverse environment? Big questions here. Stephen Smith, culinary instructor to Job Corps. Let's talk about the nuts and bolts of operating a place, feeding everybody, working with people. Maybe it's a possibility for some training. Tina Toyas, Clatsop Community College, another advisor on this thing. Clark Miner, drug treatment counselor. And Sarah Marilla, Clatsop Behavioral Health Care. So just think of the input that these outside people invited by the sheriff's office to be fully vested advisors for this project. It's stunning. How many meetings with other entities, organizations, City of Warrenton, solar people, and all that? So far, they've had 9 significant meetings with people like this. It includes City of Warrenton, had 2 meetings just with the team. Solar Energy Trust of Oregon was involved. You know, can we pencil this out so it could be a little bit green as an example to run up the flagpole? Why not? You know, how far can we go with that? Well, figure this out. Site investigations on the site for all of these different variables have had 6. There's another issue that needs to be shared with you about doing a project like this, and it's a concept called value engineering efforts. And I don't know if you've been around this stuff, but these have been completed for each and every estimate. And value engineering efforts are where you try to get all these pieces together and you analyze the good, bad, and the ugly, and the value of trading this piece for that piece, or that piece for this piece, and where's it going to leave you, and what are your options and your maneuverability, and is it going to pencil out? How does it fit within the budget? There have been 4 so far, 2 with the construction cost estimating firm, ACC, and 2 with the general contractor, Emmerich. And it ensures reconciliation of the desired scope, stays within the budget, and the end result is the final plan. We're going through all of those steps. So it also involves cost reduction ideas, and then they even went a step further. Each one of those exercises, they saved all those documents. So if there are other things turn up later in the picture, they can go back, that work's already done, and they can pull that data out of the database and make it usable. So what I'm seeing is a proactive, full engagement that is thinking through the process so that this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, these guys have made it really clear, they're never going for another bond issue in their lifetime. This is it. And how to get every possible amenity, not just a box with bars on it, but an environment that has some really well thought ideas. One of the notions that really appealed to me, I never really understood, is the intake process. mean, think about what would happen if for some strange reason we ended up in jail. What would be the worst, most scariest, highest risk experience for us? That first 24 hours in the jail when they're trying to figure out how we fit in. And we're thrown in with, ooh, bad people? People that are weirded out on drugs? People that have severe medical problems that may even be contagious? Who knows? Violence? We don't know. So that intake process is one of the greatest opportunities that they have in this new facility is to have that under control in such a way that it's good for all concerned. And it protects not only our brothers keepers who, you know, we're paying to protect society from bad people, troubled people, but it also protects those folks from other folks within the system as well. And they're doing a fabulous job. And I mean, they've really sweated bullets over how they could make this work. So what I'm seeing, and I feel pretty comfortable that I'm speaking for all of us on the committee. I asked each one of them if they were comfortable with me giving a positive report, because I'm pretty sure that we're all there. And every one of them said, yeah, this is good. This is all going really, really well. So if our first job challenge is to do an analysis of the process and the steps these people are taking for this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to build this infrastructure for the good of the county and all of the residents, is analyzing this and seeing how they're doing it and where they're going with it. I think all of us are unanimous in that we're very, very pleased with how they're doing it. And you know, we're meeting on a regular basis, and there is, I don't use the conventional terms of transparency. I mean, it's an open window, and these guys are bending over backwards to answer each and every question. You can tell it's real stuff. So what I think is going to happen is as they work through this final plan, I think they're about ready for the final plan. And by the way, it's been made very clear to us that another phase of our role, that once you folks approve of a plan and are fully up to speed on the nuts and bolts of all of that, and if we're all on the same page, if this is good and we're good to go, then I'm really excited about going out and maybe doing a little bit of yakking with the public. I wouldn't mind doing, you know, talking to the Rotary Club and getting on the radio station or getting interviewed by the press or whatever, because, again, I'm absolutely stunned to see my neighbors and my keepers of society making all the right moves. I guess if I haven't said anything else, I'm 100% excited about the way this project is going.
Well, this is very good to hear, and we're grateful to have such positive information coming to us. So are we going to have?
Yeah, whole slide.
Okay, great.
And thank you, Jerry. I've never felt so good about being part of the team.
Yeah, really.
So, the bond management team, which consists of Emil, Paul, Monica, David, and myself, I think we're really excited to show you these next few slides and talk about where we are today. The first slide is a Port of Astoria. It has nothing to do with it. So, this one, this is the overall floor plan for the jail. Again, this is after many revisions. And this is meeting and exceeding the bond commitments. It's also keeping in line with our promises to build a very staff-efficient facility. This will require only 5 more staff than we currently have. After visiting 2 other jails of the same design, they were actually bigger. Seeing their staffing models will be on the line. So, very excited about that. Let's see. This outside is, as you know, all the places that we are going to remodel. Some of them require significant remodeling, some of them not so much. And I will go into each of those in the next few slides. And this is the new construction. Originally, during, when we were putting this bond together, it was only this right half of the blue with this green exercise yard. And with the bond premium and money from the state, we are going to be able to build out the rest of the facility as the design is normally made, which will really help and add to the efficiency. It'll give us more options as far as housing classification. And I think it'll be a really nice facility, especially after having been
Could I just ask, what I heard from Jerry's presentation, what I know about Commissioner Roberts is you're committed to rehabilitation. And so the intake process forward is all pointed toward rehabilitation.
Well, that's as nearly as each individual is capable. Let's put it that way.
Right.
Some of them have a lot of issues. Some of them are addicted.
Right.
Some of them have mental problems, but
Yeah.
they will all be able to be addressed, and they're put into something, I'm going to step over here, I'm going to say classification. Is that correct? I'm learning their terminology, I don't know it. But they are considering it, and the thing that impresses me, just like Jerry, is that they are so flexible. That they say, okay, what happens, okay, if this happens, okay, well, we can tweak that because we have the ability. This facility is flexible enough. That's what impresses me.
Could I interject just one request? We're really short on time.
Yes.
And I, for one, have spent many hours going through these. So I don't really need a presentation. Is there anybody else who feels that way? I have a lot of questions, though.
You really want to move into questions?
So I don't know, Chair. What do you think? I mean, I just.
Well, I'm not sure. Has everybody seen this latest?
If you'd like, I can cruise through this in like 5 minutes.
Oh,
Do
okay.
it.
Oh,
You want to do that?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
We will go fast.
Because I'm assuming that new plan has more rehabilitation. That's
And also
all.
people watching.
Yeah.
Right, so what you have here, where's my, oh, there it is, okay. This right half will be 2 stories. What is the big change is the rec yard and these programming spaces that used to be, the rec yard was down here and programming was in the gymnasium. The cost to put the programming spaces in the gymnasium was astronomical. I don't understand construction that well, but it wasn't going to work out. And so we moved these 2 spaces from the bottom left up there and actually saved a bunch of money. And we got 2 really nice sized program areas. This one's roughly 24 by 24, that one's maybe 18 by 18. So nice generous sized rooms where we'll be able to do arraignments, we'll be able to do any kind of classes that we need for the inmates. It can be a multi-use place for staff to meet if necessary. So we're really excited about that because right now we have one tiny space in it and it's used for everything. Again, it's a nice efficient design with a centralized control room. It's looking over the top of everything right here. This just shows sections of the building that are 2 stories versus 1 story. The bottom left 2 here, these are going to be built in such a way that there's a mezzanine level already built with the proper plumbing and HVAC in place so that at a later time we can add modular steel cells like the rest of the facility to match, and we can increase the capacity if and when necessary. This is our booking and intake area. What's exciting about this is we'll have multiple holding cells. Currently, we only have 1. That'll allow us to intake people more efficiently, but also to give staff time to slow down enough to accurately do the paperwork and all that necessary stuff. We have a decontamination cell and a BAC cell. So that's where BAC room. That's where deputies, officers, troopers will do their DUI process. At that point, they have not entered the jail and county's responsibility yet. And same with the decontamination cell. If it's really dirty or has sprayed or who knows what the situation, they have an opportunity to get clean before they enter the facility.
What does BAC stand for?
blood alcohol content. So that's where the oxidizer machine would be located.
So does that mean if an individual coming in is extremely intoxicated, they stay in that room?
No, it's specific to DUI arrest and investigation process. So they're already arrested now. There's a whole bunch of steps that the arresting officer needs to go through. They read a flight consent form, request that they submit to a breath sample.
So you're processing somebody that's
We're
suspected to
processing
be-
someone, and what's nice about it is in a loud, noisy environment with lots of stuff going on, it's very hard to do that process, because if you get interrupted, you check one wrong box, the whole thing goes out the window. Very, very procedurally difficult investigation to do. We have a great property room that will be right off the booking, so that'll be a huge time savings. Right now, we have to go to the basement in order to store the property. We'll just keep cruising through. The mechanical isn't very exciting, neither is the laundry, but in this maintenance area, we can store lots of toilet paper because that's a hiding item in the jails. And we'll have a great laundry facility that has been sized for our needs. We'll be able to take care of it.
Does that have special ventilation so it stays cooler for the people that are working there?
Yes, the ones I've been into, the DLR design were very comfortable. You couldn't tell the difference in temperature from the hallway to there. The design is such that we can have our inmate workers report, and that's their place for the day. And it'll be monitored by camera, but these are people that we should be able to trust to work independently in that space, and they have access to a bathroom right there. So that's what we're looking at. This is the medical area. The idea behind this is there's a nurse's station, and it's supposed to be normalized, look more like you're going to a regular doctor's office. Depending on the classification of inmate, they may be able to walk down to medical themselves when directed, or we can bring people to the doctor/nurse by putting them in this holding cell, and then the nurse or doctor can grab people one at a time for their examination. We also have a mental health interview room, and that's certainly an important group of inmates that need more attention. That's a place where we can do our telepsychiatry, any kind of examinations for the quarters. So that's good. And then this is our intake facility. This is utilizing what used to be unpaid detention. We have it sectioned off into a women's and a men's section. This will be a post. So what happens is probably the most critical times is that first couple to 3 days in someone's in custody. And that's where they need the most attention, because this is going to be a post with, I'll say, only 20 inmates. They'll be getting good supervision. This is a time when people might be going through withdrawal or detoxification. Might be something we don't know. We're also checking for any kinds of infectious diseases. They can be separated to tell us in terms of safety of the general population. Also, aggressively will cut down on contraband introduction. And then the other thing is, you might not know this, but 52% of the people put into our jail are released in 1 day or less. Okay, 35% stay for less than 5 hours. And this is because the site releases people that meet the requirement for the conditions for release under our pretrial program. If you include people that stay 7 days or less, that's 74% of people who come to jail. So what we hope to do is that most of the churn and burn of people that come to jail, go to court, and are released, will happen up in this portion of the facility, so that you'll have more stable housing arrangements for the people that are staying longer term in the rest of the facility. I'll just show you the second floor to that. And then the administration area, most of this is being reused. We have lots of visiting booths. And then this space here, I know it has a desk and or a table and chairs, but really what we're looking to do there is to have a fingerprinting machine for the public. There's people that need fingerprints for professional licenses. And then also, what would be nice is to do our book and releases in the courts. So these are people that appear in court out of custody. Maybe they just received a citation in the field, and they need to get fingerprinted. That way, we won't have to pat them down and take their property, book them in, and book them forever visiting just to get them all shot at. This is part of an administrative function, so people can sit in the lobby or walk outside when it's their turn. We can call them in. Typically, on custody arraignment days, we'll see 6 or 8, sometimes as many as 14 people. So that'll be easier on them. We're not expected to be in custody, but also easier on our staff because we're not handling so much property just to give it right back. So, and then this is roughly what it looks like from the outside. I believe you guys have those slides. You want to talk about the site plan?
Nah.
Yeah, not that exciting. Okay. Questions?
You had a bunch. I'm sorry I didn't.
I noticed that there are no elevators that I can find. Is that okay?
You want to talk about that? You know better than I do. But essentially, we don't have anything upstairs that we don't also have downstairs. So there's
Is it because the only upstairs is that mezzanine room?
mezzanine
And
housing.
everything else is actually completely on the same?
Yes.
On that big concrete slab? Okay. That's cool. We're gonna get past the ADA folks or what?
They won't, basically, if you can't get upstairs, you won't be upstairs. So in an emergency, you wouldn't have to egress from the second floor to get out. So for instance, unless you were to house an inmate that had needed accessibility on the second floor, you wouldn't need to have a means with which to bring them back down, if that makes sense. So there's, I'd rather have DLR at the next meeting speak more to that, and I'll address this with them, but I don't want to speak out of turn and say that I know all the ADA rules, but that would be the basic philosophy, is that they would not be accessing the second story areas.
Are there any actions that have been taken, I didn't see it in the report, to mitigate noise? Because I know that in many prisons, that's a big issue.
Yes. You want to talk about?
We have a part of the design team, we have an acoustical engineer who then does a study as the design gets implemented, and then we will add acoustic treatments to spaces that require it. So for instance, in the long, taller hallways from about, what were they saying, I think from like 8 feet up, because there was concern over with a softer material and the inmates being able to handle it. There's like a wrap that goes around from up the walls and around. It's like maybe a spray
Yeah, some
on
sort of
material. They were
fiber.
describing it in one of the
Yeah,
meetings.
I don't know what it's called.
You see them in restaurants.
Yes.
So that is part of.
Yeah,
the
that's part of
engineering
the design, yep.
And the wafers, did you have wafers in the walls? Did I read that in there someplace that was
So
also
some
part of the
places will
soundproofing?
get filled, like we talked about that very specifically in the visiting area, and those panels will get filled. And
Yeah.
have
So
options
there's
for
an
that.
element of privacy.
Yeah, and jails I did visit, they were surprisingly quiet. I mean, the feel was so different compared to walking in our jail, you just feel like, you know.
Like you're in a jail.
Yeah,
Like in a tin can.
yeah, you got these high ceilings and skylights and, you know, I mean, it's not a view of the Columbia River, but it was kind of a much different feel.
Isn't sound a stressor that they can reduce the
It's a
the
stressor.
sound?
It makes
Yeah, oh,
it
exactly,
static,
yeah,
and it can
everybody.
be really difficult to communicate, it's really echoey, so, yeah, in different spaces, they have different heights that they put it, but, out of reach for housing areas, so above like 12 or 14 feet, but it wraps all the way over the ceiling, and it was like,
It's basically sound absorbing material that'll help to reduce that. It was definitely taken into consideration. It was brought up in our design charrettes with staff to make sure that we had a good environment for both the inmates, but also taking into account the staff that has to work in their 8-hour shifts and things like that.
I think that is a, imperative. Yeah, that the commission has already commented about, that we feel we want to create a place where our deputies have a much better work experience than they do now. Okay, I have a question about evacuation. What do you do if an earthquake hits? Do you have standard protocols for that? You just open the doors and say, bye? Oh, they could,
We definitely have protocol. I don't think I want to announce what they are in the meeting that's being recorded right now, but I'd be happy to talk
Okay.
about that
okay.
later.
It's not a virus.
No. We do have plans for that. And there's lots of egress. If I went back to the slide, you can see that there's lots of options to get out.
I was really impressed with the extent to which the report talks about the control system and the communication systems. I mean, this must be a great relief for you.
Very important.
Yeah, I mean, I was just so impressed, and with the detail in the report as well. But one little question about it. I seemed, in their narrative, I think I counted 3 control centers, but I couldn't figure out where they all were. Did I read that wrong?
So no, I think that would be correct.
Where's the third?
Yeah, you're right. There's 2, but okay. So in booking and in that intake area, you're going that post officer is going to want to be able to control his own area, not necessarily having to have central control of it. But then you also have to have another master control somewhere.
So there will be a master control somewhere?
Yes.
That we're
In
not
case there's a
talking-
Dr. Strangelove situation.
that we're not going to talk about?
Right.
Okay. And then I see the other one is the little IRA up where the guys are actually looking at everybody. I'm sorry, it never occurred to me that some of this we should look at. Do you all feel, and I really don't mean this as a criticism, I mean it as a capacity question. Do you feel that the city of Warrenton is prepared for code enforcement and building inspections? Or have they indicated that they might hire some help? Or just kind of wonder, I don't want us to get hung up the way we have with several other projects in that area.
So the 2 meetings that we did have with the city of Warrenton, we addressed at least one of those concerns of their ability to do the plans examining in-house and how they handled some of that. I actually believe that they do send the plans to, I'm gonna look over at David because he was at that meeting too, but
I think what they indicated, which is pretty common in small communities, is that they hire a bigger kind of review company that will do that. I'm sure they're gonna do the land use planning in-house, but the plans examining of the building is the, they're probably gonna farm that out.
I would hope so.
I know they talked at least about structural, there were obviously certain things that they want to review themselves just because local codes, you know what I mean? But they did discuss that. As far as like inspections, all that currently will all be handled by the city of Warrenton once the plans are reviewed.
I hope somebody's gonna kind of pay attention to that. You know,
Well, we will also have the, all of the engineers and then the designers, the architects, reviewing it on almost a weekly basis throughout the construction. So the architect team will visit the site once a week, and then we require in the contract that we wrote with the architect for a certain number of site visits from all of their engineering partners. So,
I'm not worried about that.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
worried about the review on the part of the city, about that people.
And that was part of the reason why we had the 2 early on meetings, is just to kind of start with the conversation so that they're aware of the process and the plans that we were putting in place to try and keep things on task. And I don't doubt that any of this team, whether it's construction, whether it's Cornerstone, as far as them holding the city accountable to try and keep our time.
Yeah. And sometimes it's just a matter of making sure that they understand our schedule. That's all. time to hire somebody to come in and to do the review. I'm sorry that we didn't get the advisory committee minutes from the last two meetings, because I found the ones we did get were wonderful. They answered half of my questions. I mean, it was wonderful to know that the advisory committee was coming in and saying, these things are important to us. They had talked about the solar issue, they talked about programming, they covered so many of the bases that, so I'd love to continue to receive those if we could, because I think it's a good update. It's really, I mean, we've got a great committee, and they've saved me a lot of trouble. Okay. In the visitors, there's a comment in the presentation narrative that said visitors will be limited. What is that, because we want them to be, or because we don't have the space, or something like that?
Visitation is a staff-intensive matter, because, especially now, the way our design is. This will be somewhat better, but usually you move groups of people based on their classification. So you don't put the most dangerous ones in the last. And so you got to schedule it all out. And so currently what we do is we dedicate Saturday and Sunday to visiting. For inmate workers, they also have the ability. So we'll probably do some of that. So in that sense, it's not limited to design. Video visits online. So, and I think a lot of jails are seeing this. Everyone's got a cell phone in their pocket. There is a fee for that. For those that can't afford it, they can visit in person, on whatever schedule we come up with.
I thought it seemed to be a very good thing in the jail, the more visitation is allowed.
The more appropriate visitation, because we do have problems frequently with the conduct of the visitors.
Gotcha.
So it's
you
an
wanna be
earned
careful.
privilege on the part of the visitors
It
and
is-
the
it is a
inmates?
privilege, yes. But we are committed to doing visiting. And we do have people that do the wrong thing during visiting, and we kick them off for a while.
And the current design equals the number of visitations, doesn't it? Because currently we only have two.
Well, yeah, so right now we have a row of 5 chairs and 1 tree booth. And so there's more privacy, you're literally sitting just like this on a phone. This will be much more private.
You know, I was just puzzled by the phrase.
And of course, you do have to remember, this is a jail, not a prison. There's a wild difference between the
Right.
two and how we handle it.
Exactly. I mean, 74%, it's less than 7 days.
And we're not going to be looking at building a conjugal visit enterprise or anything like that.
Yes, there's no, there's a field out back.
And this is maybe I'm ahead of myself here, but I was wondering I'm assuming that you're programming to a large, broader than just specialty programs, will be, at what point do you start talking about that? At what point are you going to start to say, okay, how are we going to modify the way we do things given this wonderful new facility? When do I need to start thinking about that?
Well, I think part of that is one, right now, we're so busy on this, I feel like I'm dogpaddling just to stay up with my normal duties. But I think as we get closer, we'll talk about budgets and what it costs to implement those programs. And we've got about 2 years now, so we'll be talking with parole and probation. They have a large percentage of the clientele, and some funding. And so, start budget season here pretty soon. And I think we'll start having some of those conversations.
Really, you think in this budget you're going to be looking at?
I
Because you
can't
won't be
commit.
open in this
No,
budget
I
cycle.
think it's time to start researching this stuff.
Good.
And have an idea of what it might cost.
And one of my little ones.
Yeah, one of my-
But in addition to, sorry, go ahead.
No.
I was going to say in addition to, because I continue to be concerned about operation costs. And I know that Commissioner Nebaker brought up at Congresswoman Bonamici's town hall meeting. I know state and nationally, they're looking at how Medicaid and Medicare is paid in the jails. You know, that's.
Or
They
not.
don't.
I understand that, but that's, I mean, that's a political issue that needs to be addressed, so that we don't become bankrupt.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we want these treatment options, but to pay for the medications is another issue.
I mean, not even just treatment, just having individuals incarcerated that
Oh,
have
of course.
major health problems.
Medical care.
Well, and I think that's where y'all come in. The next legislative session, whether OSSA, OECD, DAs, police chiefs, need to get into the legislature and explain this group of inmates that are living in the county jail are not the county's responsibility in any way, shape, or form. We're doing you a favor by having them in our facility versus in yours. And it's up to, and the counties need to step up and get that message across to the state, because I think you all know how they're great at passing things down to us.
Oh, very.
So we need to return the favor every now and then. And this is a no nonsense, obvious as pie sort of, they don't belong to us.
That's right.
They aren't our responsibility. Leave them on OHP, problems
Yes.
solved. It's
Yes.
that simple. It takes more paperwork to take them off and then to put them on than what we charge them for. And the other thing, the way the counties look at this is, we're not charging them for our nurses, we're not charging them for our doctors, we're not charging them, what we physically have to write checks for, when we take them to the hospital, when we buy the pharmacy, or buy the medical equipment, that's what we're looking for reimbursement from. We're not even trying to do them wrong by charging them hourly rates for our own staff. So,
You're
Do you,
preaching to the
do you
choir.
know if this is, maybe Commissioner Thompson can answer this, but do we know if this issue is on the AOC annual conference agenda? Because I know that we're not the only county that's dealing with this issue.
No, we've been talking about it constantly at County College.
Do you know if this is on the agenda for the annual conference?
I actually
County
haven't
agenda?
read that, but I think it would be good to have the county manager investigate that and to present our concerns to the AOC leadership.
Because I know that last year, Lieutenant Phillips and yes, spoke, but I didn't know ahead of time. But this time, if you speak.
Yeah,
let us
we
know.
ran into you in the hallway. It was pretty great.
Well, and Representative Mitchell was at this meeting with Suzanne Bonamici, so she heard this. But, you know, both of those people and everybody else has a lot of things to think about. So I think this needs to be brought up again and again and again and again.
And we definitely need to work with AOC about it.
A bucket list and LOC and all of that. Could, having held that in place and planted it firmly in the new county manager's lap, I would wonder, do you see, it's so wonderful to have this advisory committee now in the formative stages. Do you see any advantage to continuing to have this kind of, I want to say, community involvement in the operation of the facility to help you raise issues and to keep community awareness well informed? You can tell by the way I structured that, I'm looking for a yes. You may not want to.
I understand it a little.
Okay, so here's the deal. I'm a fan of citizen participation. We heard a wonderful report that uses familiar, capable community members in a way that provides greatest value for the whole county, for people who are incarcerated and people who aren't. So can we continue to have citizen input, oversight, information, so we keep the flow of information going?
Are you talking about like going out into the public? Are you talking?
I'm talking about keeping a body live for gathering input. So,
yeah.
okay.
We're gonna continue to meet monthly.
Well, but I mean after the jail is operational, not just the building of this new facility, but to keep the citizenry informed about what's going on, because you've raised the issue and you've done it in a very capable way that's accountable, that's rooted in the workers who are actually doing it, which is beautiful. So it's like a shrub, right? I just want to see this shrub continue to grow because I think it'll continue to bear fruit.
So are we going to be recording these meetings?
Whatever makes you happy, Mr. Ostermiller, I think is probably a good idea. But you see my point. If we
think that's
keep
down the
community,
road a long
absolutely,
ways.
absolutely.
Let's
But
get, I think we need to get,
Well, but I think
Yeah.
there are two components, though, that I think do relate to what's going on now. And one of them is, as we always learn and are learning through the comp plan, is that we're training a lot of citizens.
Yeah.
I mean, this committee, these folks are gonna be semi-experts on jail issues. And the idea, I mean, most of our programs in the county have advisory committees.
yeah.
And so having a continuing advisory.
Well, you're doing great so far. If you can keep it up and it just continues seamlessly so that you keep us informed and the rest of the community as well, if it isn't too onerous on staff.
There is an advisory committee, the Public Safety Coordinating Council, that's a whole different.
right.
No, that's an entirely different,
But
that's
we-
really not a citizen's advisory.
well, no, there is a citizen.
It's not the same
No,
thing.
that's an entirely different.
It's not the same thing.
That's a different animal.
So we can talk about this later. Obviously, we all
We
have
will.
different ideas.
We will. I just have one other question. I noticed in the plan that we were given in June, between that plan and the one we just received, the medical clinic changed, not a lot, but there was a lot of useful space that was turned into hallways and storage. Quite, it looked to me, I mean, I actually did the computation of the number of square foot that were lost in those two things. But,
I think part of that, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, when they look at how the existing structure was built now, there's certain structures that would prevent that swing.
things like foam walls and stuff like that. Okay. The, my other issue, just, and these are, I guess maybe this is more of an operational thing. When an inmate gets real sick, if somebody has something highly communicable like the flu, I didn't see anything in this plan that would allow for us to have them in a secured room where they could be cared for.
Want me to grab this one?
Did I?
The intake area where we have those 20 individual cells, and there's, I think, 12 male, 8 female.
Oh,
When
that-
Mac is speaking, they can use those for also different particular reasons. Because they have a staff member posted there watching those, they could put a person in there if they were on some sort of psychiatric watch, if they were ill, if they had another reason that they needed to be separated from the rest of the community, so.
And would there be a medical person in that facility?
Not always, and there isn't now. And that'd be actually very uncommon for most jails that they have, for smaller size jails. So some of the larger jails have dedicated medical wards and they're not as hospitals, and they're actually not separated by the hospital. And so that's beyond our reach right now.
Also, they have separate HVACs to those cells so that they don't spread the germs. I checked on that one.
Yeah. Okay. What is a restraint room?
Well, that's kind of a chair.
I'll tell you.
And we do have occasion to use that. It's, you know, and that's where someone is very violent, acts out. Restrain them until they change behavior.
Are they physically restrained in that room, or is it the room that is restrained?
Well, it would be both the place to keep restraints, such as the restraint chair or other devices, such as the wrap. And then also a place to put them where they can cool out and not also be, when you put someone under restraint, you have to keep them separate from other inmates. And we would like to do that in a place that is not visible to other inmates.
And this,
And well, if we do, we're giving up our holding cell, or we're giving up our medical cell, so that's the problem, or giving up our library, so that's what that is.
If I could just follow up on that, is that room under video surveillance? Okay, so there's a record kept of what happened in that room, so well, no, but this specific room presents opportunities, but also some risks for abuse by folks who do bad. I'm thinking of, there have been instances, not in our county, but in other places, where staff have sometimes behaved inappropriately, and
This
so,
would be absolutely under video surveillance, yes.
okay,
And
just
it
want to be
actually
clear.
would go into the hallway.
Okay, so there are a couple ways. Okay.
All right, we need to move into our next meeting, 3 minutes.
I have nothing but good things to say about this one.
So I'm glad you had all your questions answered.
I am, I'm
Great.
delighted.
Thank you for
Thank you very
your
much.
work on this.
Thank you.
Sorry. I think that's what I was.
It's you.
You okay?
The 3 tables and the mic.
Where do you want this? I feel so good about the consultants that we put together for this project. I really do. I think they've been just tremendous. I couldn't believe when I opened up this report, in just 3 months, they've done a huge amount of work.
You can feel very confident.
Couple chairs here.
Half of them had been asked by your committee meetings. I was so impressed with that chair.
Thank you.
Can't wait to keep doing that. And
Tell us.
go, La Luna Loca Online.
Go to that.
Let's hope so. Comment about advisory committee.
Thank you.
I just think once we get
Yeah, because
Which is fine.
it's good. We like it. How many counters?
She was great. She was a handful. I heard some language I haven't heard since I was in the Marine Corps, so.
Great turns of
She's
phrases.
actually great. Her and I get along really well. She's deep down a really wonderful person. But she's.
I really like her.
It was funny because we were sitting in the restaurant. So many people that were walking by were excited.
You, Mark?
You know that I was gonna be
I mean,
Late?
late. Yes.
Okay, thank goodness. I had told
noticed she's there.
it's there on the staff that
I could, does this happen all the time?
communicated with you, so I apologize for that.
Okay. All
I
right.
didn't know how long it was gonna go.
Okay. Where we lost.
She finds a balance.
Whoops, where's that coming?
Commissioner Sullivan? Commissioner Webb?
Water?
We're a very social group.
Taste it. Drink any.
Yeah, drink it.
Commissioner Thompson? They didn't feed us.
I know, I was really.
Where's,
Two
where's Leanne?
restaurant.
Oh, okay. The Board of Commissioners is the governing body of Clatsop County, all county service districts for which this body so acts, and as the Clatsop County Local Contract Review Board is now meeting in regular session. Please join us for the flag salute.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have the roll call, please.
Commissioner Sullivan? Here. Commissioner Webb?
Here?
Commissioner Nebaker?
Here?
Commissioner Kula?
Here.
Commissioner Thompson? Here.
All right, now we come to the agenda. Let's see.
Holy cow.
Parliamentarian, Mr. Taylor, do we, there's something that I want to pull off the consent calendar to move to the business calendar. Do we do that during approval of the consent calendar or the entire agenda?
I do it under the consent calendar.
All right, thank you.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Those in favor for approving the agenda, say yes.
Aye.
Yes?
Yes.
Any noes? The agenda is approved. Now we have presentations. The first one is the budget and first quarterly financials.
Good evening, Commissioners, and I would also like to welcome one of our lay budget committee members, Mr. Brown, who's here, and then, right there. And then also just announce that when I sent out these invites that I did receive an email back from Mr. Kidder, and I apologize because I can't recall the district which he resides in right now, but he did have to, three. He did have to resign. He will be moving out of the area, so when we start the advertisement process, we'll be advertising for that partial term position. So anyways, so I come before you tonight to present our first quarter financials for the 2019-20 fiscal year. So overall, most of our funds are coming in as expected, which should be approximately 25% expended. We are currently going through the audit process, and so right now we have unaudited beginning balances. Some of those are coming in a little bit higher than what we had originally projected, and that's due to savings
during the 18-19 fiscal year, as well as additional revenues that were unanticipated. So right now, our general fund beginning balance is coming in approximately $2.2 million more than budgeted. General roads beginning balance is approximately $478,000, and then special projects is $1.3. So this slide here reflects the first quarter revenues collected in all funds. This does exclude beginning balances as well as transfers that have come in. Some areas that the county is currently exceeding in revenues collections for this point include interest revenues, which have been coming in higher, but we do anticipate that those will start coming in a little bit less than they have been, simply because we have been starting to see rates drop. Recording fees are coming in slightly above. They're coming in at about 33%. Timber revenue is about 48%, and then room tax is approximately 32%.
I'm sorry,
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
what you just said on the slide I just saw, I couldn't correlate those.
So we're coming in approximately 19% of our projected revenues, but there's some fees or revenues that we collect that are coming in higher than average. So like our recording fees are coming in slightly higher, as well as timber revenues, which again, those fluctuate greatly.
Okay, but that's not broken out on the slide that we
No,
see.
that
Okay.
is just me giving you some information.
Thank you.
So this slide here is strictly for the general fund. Again, this does not include beginning balances. And again, as I mentioned previously, we had our beginning balance that rolled was approximately $2.2 million more than we projected. And so the beginning balance that is unaudited is approximately $13 million. Sorry. This slide here is our major revenue that we collect in the general fund. As you can see, property taxes is only approximately $100,000 collected, and so we'll be seeing those start to trickle in here in November and December, and that's when the majority of those receipts are received. Timber revenues, as per our long-term financial plan, anything in excess of what we budgeted, which is the 15-year low, will get received into special projects. And then beyond that would go into the general fund stabilization. So right now, we're approximately 48% collected for the first quarter. This slide here reflects the general fund payroll costs. As you can see, we have continued to go up in payroll costs over the years in the general fund, and this is because we've been in a good position, so we've been able to add additional staff. But with the additional staff comes the additional healthcare costs, as well as increases in health insurance rates, and then into additional PERS. So one thing that happens with PERS, you see 15-16 and 16-17, as well as 17-18 and 18-19. Those PERS costs are relatively close, and then 19-20 we jump up a little bit higher. PERS rates are released every 2 years, so we pay the same rate for 2 years, and then it goes up. So the rate that we will now be paying will be 2019 through 2021. This slide here reflects all of the expenditures within the general fund. Again, everything for the most part is coming in as anticipated. There are a couple org units that are coming in slightly higher than what we anticipate, and that's because there are one-time payments that occur in there. So our dues and special assessments is slightly higher. Sorry, I'm trying to find it. Dues and special assessments has a one-time payment, so that's coming in a little bit more than anticipated. And then we're also seeing some IT. They're coming in slightly higher, and that's because of our one-time lease payment that we pay in July. And this slide here is representative of the Board of Commissioners annual budget. You'll see we do have the new column there that says personnel services, and that is for the budgeted health insurance costs. That does not take effect until January, when the plan will begin. And so the way that it was approved in the budget is that there is budget authority should every commissioner choose to take health insurance. And so if that's not the case, then there would be some savings realized there. This is broken out by commissioners for the first quarter. And so again, we have it broken out by education and training, other meetings, meals reimbursed, mileage reimbursements, and then lodging. And through the end of the first quarter, $5,158 has been spent, so 17% of the amount budgeted. So overall, that's coming in less than the 25% for the first quarter as well.
Can I ask a question,
Uh-huh.
Monica? For things, often we sign up for trainings or like county college. Do we pay that quarterly when it lasts like that? When does that money actually get spent?
So it kind of depends. So you have all, or most of you have registered for AOC, and so that is included in here because that expenditure occurred for registration in the first quarter, but your hotel costs aren't going to be, and your meal costs aren't going to occur until the second quarter because it's in November. So you'll see the lodging there. So your education and training, that $479 under yours is your registration for the Association of Oregon Counties Conference. Does that answer your question?
How do we pay for county college? Do we pay that in one lump sum?
Yeah, county college is a one-time payment.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know, I wasn't sure what exactly you meant there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so this slide here is representative of the Public Health Department. Again, the org units are coming in on budget. Tobacco prevention is running slightly higher, and that is in relation to a lot of the work that's been happening right now with the tobacco retail license. The public health director's time gets allocated through pretty much all of these org units, and so depending on where he's spending more of his time depends on how that gets expensed. And so that's being monitored and will start to come in according to budget. This slide here reflects the roads department, and again, road admin and support had a one-time payment for their general liability insurance, and so that's exceeding the 25% mark, but that will slow down. The equipment replacement fund so far has only been charged for indirect costs, but before you tonight, there is a agenda item for a chip spreader to be purchased, so that they're beginning to place orders on their pieces of equipment that have been budgeted. And these are all the other org units. Again, some of them are slightly over the 25%. Video lottery is based on monies received and then transferred out. So nothing more than what is budgeted will get transferred out. And then the debt service is we have a payment that happens at the beginning of the fiscal year, and then we have a payment that happens in December, I believe. And so again, nothing more than what is budgeted will be expended. It's just kind of when those payments happen. And the 4-H and Extension Office, they run behind when we do a quarterly billing to Oregon State. And so we have not yet received that bill from Oregon State, and so the first quarter payment has not been processed. So in summary, all of our funds are in line as budgeted, and those that are running slightly higher are being monitored. And in other areas, we continue to try and realize where savings might be able to occur. As I mentioned at the beginning, we are currently going through our audit, and so we hope to bring that presentation to you in February, again, as we typically have in the past. Are there any questions?
Thank you.
No problem, thank you.
Our next presentation is Clatsop Behavioral Healthcare. We always like hearing from you.
Well, we always like presenting to you. Hello, Commissioners. Good evening. My name is Amy Baker, and I'm the Executive Director with Clatsop Behavioral Healthcare.
And I'm Shira Marilla. I'm the Director of Outpatient Services with Clatsop Behavioral Healthcare.
So we're presenting on some of our quarterly metrics and statistics that we have been working on collecting, just to kind of share with you what we've been up to, what some of the strengths are, and some of the challenges that we've been faced with. So let's start with client services. I think I've said this before. Obviously, tracking behavioral health outcomes in my field it's pretty challenging. So we have to look at some of the national standards and figure out what we can collect with existing data that we have. And so one of the measurements that we track is around client retention. So the goal with behavioral health is that when we get somebody in for services, we want to hold on to them long enough to be able to, work our magic. So this is not a National Institute of Health stamped research project, so I just want to start with that. Basically, what I did was I took all of the folks who enrolled with services in January and February. So that was 184 clients. And then we did a snapshot 6 months out in September and looked to see how many clients were still in services. So basically by that, I'm measuring how many people dropped out of service, with knowing that on average, kind of a typical length of stay in treatment is probably around 6 to 9 months. So holding on to somebody for 6 months is good. And we found that we had a 75% retention rate. Our access to care, I presented on this last time, and I'm sure you don't remember this, but one of the areas of challenge that we had was our numbers were really good except for substance use disorder treatment. So Shira has been working very hard on access, and I'd like for her to tell you what she's done.
Okay, so one of the things that we've done is work towards getting some of our clinicians to be duly diagnosed so that clients can come in, or duly credentialed, so that, excuse me. I'm sick, so my brain is a little foggy. But duly credentialed, so that clients can come in and be treated for mental health and substance use disorders by the same person. We spent a lot of time looking just at scheduling and time and efficiency of use, and making sure that clinicians are being supported in their paperwork time, and that everybody is sort of carrying the weight around assessments. We also have increased access to substance use disorder assessments in South County. Previously, those assessments were only occurring up here in Astoria, and we now have the ability to do those assessments down in South County as well. What am I missing, Amy?
Where specifically is that?
In Seaside, in the Seaside Clinic.
So you know that Seaside is just halfway. You call it South County, but for those of us who live in South, I'm just saying, just geographically present, Seaside is halfway down.
Yeah. Yes.
So folks come from, I assume, the mid-county area, not to interrupt your presentation, but I assume that if someone has this kind of problem in the mid-county region, they're going to be coming to Seaside rather than to Astoria, but I don't know if that's accurate. And I wonder, considering that you're getting now data from 2 segments of the county, if you have any idea of the geographical dispersion of your client load, where they focus, where they live, and then where they come for treatment. It may not be relevant, but I'm curious about it.
We do actually know that. We have that data. I don't know it off the top of my head. I know that 60% of our clients are from the Astoria area, and the rest, Warrenton's pretty small, and then Seaside is more significant. But that's a piece of information that I can easily collect for you.
And I'm thinking again about access and the difficulties with transportation and childcare and employment and all of the other
community support
Absolutely.
pieces of it. So I
Yes.
want to support your work. I just want to understand it.
Yeah, absolutely. Good question. And just, oh, sorry. Yes, Commissioner
Chair,
Sullivan?
may I ask a question? Or I can wait.
Maybe it might be good to wait and see if our questions are answered, and if they're not, to ask at the end.
Okay.
Thank you. And just to say that, so part of the reason why access is important is just that it's obviously if somebody's waiting weeks to get in for appointments, like that's not good. And so that's kind of the importance behind tracking this measure. And basically it's I think I forgot to say this, but basically this is having an appointment available within 10 business days of the person calling us. So that's what this relates to. Mobile crisis, again, this was, we had a crisis team, but we started mobile crisis in September. You all know that, but this is kind of for Don's sake. Welcome, Don. Thank you. So in September, we started providing crisis intervention out in the community and not just in the emergency departments. So between October 1st and March 30th, about 45% of our calls we've responded to in the community, 50% have been in the emergency department, and jail was 9%. The goal here, as you all know, is that we want to provide more response in the community than we do in the emergency department. If there's a mental health crisis, it's just better if we can meet people where they're at. It's a less institutional and less expensive for us to be able to meet folks in the community. When we did go to the emergency department, about 78% of those folks we were able to help come up with a transition plan and get them out of the emergency department.
Was that before the treatment, or you met them at the emergency room?
Yeah, so the way the process now is that somebody goes to the emergency department and the hospital does the initial assessment. And then they determine whether or not we need to be involved. And so then we come in and we'll do kind of our own assessment. And if we can, obviously we want to work with folks to get them connected to services and get them out of the emergency department as quickly as we can. So, and then for the folks who we responded in the community, we were like 78% of those folks, we were able to keep them in the community. And of course, the reason why that's important is that that's like the whole goal of the mobile crisis team, is to intervene in the community, resolve the crisis, whether it's in the home or the school or wherever, and not require law enforcement taking the time to transport somebody to the ED and then, having somebody sit in the ED. So, and prior to us starting mobile crisis, many of those calls would have been, and situations would have been taken directly to the ED because, as you know, law enforcement are not trained to assess whether somebody really is having a mental health crisis. So you want to bring the right response to every situation. Sorry, that's the slide I just talked about. 81% of the time we kept them in the community. So I'm kind of excited about this slide. This is data that we got from Care Oregon. This is not anything I collect, which is why it looks much fancier than the stuff that I've shared with you. So this is kind of a reflection of the community effort in Clatsop County around addressing substance abuse. And with Clatsop County in particular, there's been a 60% decrease in all inpatient admits for SUD-related issues. And this is something that is happening in Clatsop County, but not Columbia and Tillamook. So it's unique to Clatsop.
Could I ask you to, there's several of these acronyms that I have no idea what they are.
I am so getting to that. So cellulitis and septicemia are both, it's infections related to injection sites. And so those, I would say that the needle exchange has had a very positive impact on those numbers. Like, that's been a really instrumental piece of this. And then I would also say the increase of programming and our recovery allies have had an impact on the number of folks who are going to the hospital with toxicity or overdose. And that's really been a community-wide effort. And it's been a multitude of things, but we're actually starting to see a little bit of an impact there.
And IP is inpatient?
Yeah.
And what is SUD?
Sorry. Substance use disorder. Sorry. We're terrible. We're the worst. I think North Coast Crisis Respite and Residential Center. So let me tell you what you're looking at here. So 2016, the big tall green column is the number of acute care inpatient bed days that we had. It was 4,529.
Are those bed days in the county or outside the county?
Most of those are outside, they're all outside of the county because we don't have any acute care inpatient. And the little column is respite. And the little column doesn't tell you the whole story. I think probably I should have the residential bed days in there too, but they weren't as easily collectible. So we've gone from 4,529 down to, in 2008, 1,006 bed days. That has been a 75% reduction of acute care inpatient bed days, which has both been a reduction of cost, it's been a reduction of law enforcement time. It's better for people to keep them in the community. We've had a much easier time engaging with folks when they've been at NCCRC. It's a combination of programming, NCCRC. I mean, I have to give big kudos to my team. Really done a good work.
And I think the mobile team as well.
Yeah.
And often when the mobile team connects with people in the community, then they're also able to connect them with services with us, right? After a crisis assessment, then referrals are made. So it's an opportunity for us to engage people as well.
Sorry, I'm like actually really proud of that.
We're just going to pause on that.
So I reported on this last time, so I wanted to bring this information back too about staff turnover. So I'm getting better data on this because we implemented a electronic HR system. So this is no longer Amy hand counting. This is actually the system doing it for me. You will see the numbers are pretty high with NCCRC. They're probably the highest with administrative staff and NCCRC. It's in part because those positions are paid lowest, but it's also because we had administrative change at NCCRC. And one of the things that I've learned very well in my 3 years here is that when there are leadership changes, it often leads to staff changes. And so obviously one of our core organizational strategies is really to protect and support the leadership team, because when we keep those folks supported and nurtured and taken care of, then staff feel the same way. So I hope the next time I come back, the numbers on NCCRC look better than they do right now. So there was a forum that I was not at recently, but somebody had made the comment about the fact that there have been kind of a rash of suicides in the community lately, and they wanted to know what CBH was doing to address it. And when I heard that, my immediate reaction was, well, shit, what am I going to do about that? And how do I put a chip in everybody's head to stop that from happening? And then I thought, well, what am I doing about that? And So we had a discussion with our leadership team and got fired up about the fact that September is National Suicide Prevention Month, and we put on a social media campaign. It's small, we had like 59 unique posts. We reached 1,700 unique individuals, which is not nearly as many as we need to. But we started putting out positive messages and things around know the signs. And it's a small thing for CBH to do, and it's kind of why I'm like here to talk about this with you. Is that obviously this is a community-wide issue, and this is something that really all of us need to think about and talk about. I know almost nobody who's not impacted by suicide. I don't. And the reality is my reach is never going to be as great as this entire community's reach is going to be. So, I think this is something that we need to talk about. I think it's something that we need to raise. I think other states and countries that have done a good job of getting ahead of it have done a serious campaign around suicide prevention. I'm one small organization, but geez, start small, like the posts, share the posts. We got to get the word out there that there's hope, that there's people who care. 50% of all suicides, people never say a word. But you wanna reach folks, you reach hotels and animal shelters and doctors' offices. There are things that we can do to make a difference. So that's my impassioned plea to you all around. I think this is something that we all need to look at. And thanks for letting me swear. Sorry.
Are the signs that are on the roads, is that part of something?
Seaside High School.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, and that's what I was wondering about, those signs. I love those signs.
Love those signs.
Is that possible you could link arms with school districts all over?
That's what I'm saying. I think it has to be an entire community-wide effort. It's got to be everybody.
Okay, number 2 on the county manager's bucket list.
Well, sorry, Don.
I know 20 years ago when I lived in Minnesota, they had billboard signs that said the #1 cause of suicide is untreated depression. But it made an impact because there were billboard signs, talking the untalkable, and I think that's part of what the job is.
And I think that's what Amy means too when she says that folks didn't say anything. 50% of suicides and folks didn't say anything. So these aren't folks that we're serving, right? They haven't come through our doors yet. So they're undiagnosed or they don't even have depression. You can have suicidal ideation without having depression.
Or they don't know they have depression.
Or that, right?
There's increasing research around suicide, and there are some folks where it's just a very, very impulsive act. And there's other researchers who are pushing to have suicidal ideation be its own thing because it can show up without depression, without people having symptoms of depression.
And the fact that gun ownership in Oregon is so far above the national average
Right.
makes us very high in the suicide.
Yes.
And I know when I was teaching that we had some students that were affected by that. It was, that kind of time of life when they don't necessarily think, it's a terrible event, and maybe they'll do that and don't realize that it's a permanent solution for a temporary problem.
Yep.
Thanks for charging us with that.
Yeah.
I actually, Madam Chair, I had one more question.
Well,
I thought you said you were done.
finished?
Yes, I am finished.
Okay, yes, go
I was
ahead.
listening for well, you had the number of admissions related to cellulitis and the other kinds of indicators. I wonder, sometimes it's just a few people having frequent problems. Do you have that data segregated by number of individuals involved?
I am sure that Care Oregon does, yes. Yeah.
It's just useful because
Yeah.
my understanding, my recollection is that you were focused on the most at need, most at-risk folks. And so I assume there's some correlation in there somewhere.
There certainly could be, yeah.
May I ask,
Yes, Commissioner Sullivan?
how is the, I know before you've come in front of this board, you've talked about the challenges of having a on-site doctor, psychiatrist?
Yeah.
Full-time?
Yeah.
How is that going?
So we currently have a telepsychiatrist who is 3 days a week. She just started with us in July, and she's absolutely lovely. Like she's, and we also have a nurse practitioner, telepsychiatrist, and a child psychiatrist who's through telepsychiatry. Obviously, I would prefer to have a person on site, but I am also, recognizing other rural areas have had to rely on telemedicine in order to address the need. Our particular psychiatrist she's kind of a rock star. She's very good. The staff like her, the clients like her. She's directive. She bosses our staff around even though she's on a TV screen, which is exactly what she should do. Do you want to say anything about that?
Just that I think she's a really great fit, that it's really challenging to find, just to find staff that, I think at that level, to find psychiatrists that fit really well in this work. And she is collaborative and kind and holistic in her approach. And so I would take her on the telehealth screen and not have her any day.
Can you also talk a little bit about the Respite Center? Is there anything that you can share with us today about that?
About the purchasing of the building?
I'm open to any information.
So, as many of you know, we are in the process of trying to purchase the building from Gobi. It's been a somewhat challenging process in terms of back and forth. We're in the process of trying to come to agreement on the actual purchase price of the building. CBH we've been conditionally approved for a loan to buy the building, which is really good. It's another step in the right direction. We did come to agreement with Gobi around how much we would lease the building for in the meantime, because we started with a pretty sizable lease amount that really was probably more than what the market share would be, or the fair market price. So we're not necessarily there yet in terms of the negotiations, but we are moving through the process.
I'm not sure how, I'm thinking about this based on a meeting that Commissioner Thompson, Webb, and I were at, where Betsy Johnson was on the phone, and she said, tell us where you are succeeding. That's where we want to put our money. I don't know that the state can help out with this, but that's what they look for. And based on the statistics that you showed of the lower, far lower incidence in the emergency room, I would think that shows a lot of success.
So I agree with you. I think one of the pieces that's been a little bit frustrating to me has been around Gobi potentially looking at selling the building to anybody really who will pay a higher price for that building. And I guess what I want to say to you is that A, I think that program is worth investing in. B, you will not find an organization who is more committed to this community and these clients than CBH. That is where our heart is. That's who we care about. I can tell you since the day we opened that building to yesterday, 70% of our clients at NCCRC have been from Clatsop County. That's our priority. Yes, we do end up taking some folks from out of area to make the program financially stable. But I can tell you, if somebody else were to buy that program, they would not have that same level of commitment. So,
Is there anything we can do in this, in the issue with Gobi? Uh-oh.
Okay, let's hear it.
now I'm looking at Don because he's probably better at politics than I am.
Well, I will say that I did talk to Gobi myself and relayed the importance of this facility to the community, and that alternate uses of the facility are not what the community and the county are looking for, because what we need is the continuation of its current use. It's a facility that I think the board knows and the community knows that you could not site again and build again without a significant amount of time and resources invested. And it's a resource that's been embraced by the community that it resides in. And so, I just wanted to make sure that the Gobi understood how we felt about this facility, that it has a face, it has a name, it has a purpose. And so we did that, and what we're hopeful for is that will elicit a continuation of the conversation that needs to take place to get to the conclusion that we all hope for. So we'll continue to work on that behind the scenes and support CBH in their efforts, so.
And I think I can speak for the commission that we want to see it remain as it has been. It was a rocky road at first, but I don't understand. I mean, the county put in considerable resources, and I think that's my recollection. And
it's not, I mean, it's the money that came to the CCOs, I mean, that's community resource. That was to invest in communities. It's not just like CBH's money is not CBH's money. It's the community's money. It's our clients' money. I mean, all we are stewards of public funding. So I agree with you.
So I'm imagining that the county manager will organize us into a team and deploy us to be useful in supporting this effort. Is that accurate?
Yes, Commissioner.
Is that the commitment we're all looking for? Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the information.
You bet.
I might have another question. So you may not be able to answer this, but this 75% retention that you have, it seems really good to me. Do you know how it compares with how it was before you were here? Or even when you first came?
I don't. I have to think about if there's a way that I can collect that. Possibly. Let me look into that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any more questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So next on our agenda is business from the public, but before we open it up to the public, Sheriff Bergen would like to speak to us.
Thank you, Commissioner Nebeker and Commissioners, or Chair Nebeker. I have obviously was going to try to reach out to you before this, but unfortunately, you all had a conflict and moved your meeting to the end of the month, and I won't be here. So we're doing it tonight. And first of all, real quick, since Amy's been here, it has been a 100% different change. We still have our conflicts. However, she is one dedicated person to this cause, and I can't say enough good things about her. But still, you got to fix a couple things. No, she's doing a great job. Anyway, as y'all know, my last day will be December January 6th. And I'd like to make the recommendation that we move Matt Phillips, my jail commander, into the position as acting sheriff until the election takes place. I believe the county managers reached out to y'all, and I've talked to a couple of you also as well. Matt is a good fit. I got to teach him to quit using $5 words all the time, but other than that, he's doing a great job. He's completely different than I am, so you don't have any worries about that. Some big old redneck coming in here. And but just as I was different than John Reichel, and John Reichel was different than Al Eastman, and Al Eastman was different than Bondetti, and Bondetti was different than Kearney, and I can keep right on going. So I think it takes a special person to walk into this place, but it also, I know when it's time. 35 years will be coming up very quickly here, and I'm tired. And that's all I can say. I think I've done a lot for this community, and I've dedicated my life to this job. So my recommendation would be to move Matt Phillips in until the election. He's already filed, and I think the closing date is March or somewhere in there. I don't believe anybody else has filed for this position, but it's one that should be an elected position, and I'm glad that our charter states as so. So that's my recommendation. You don't have to follow it, but I highly recommend it. Thank you. Any questions? Also, I know there was some kind of up in the air about how this all worked, and if you need any explanation, I'm more than happy to, explain how everything works with the process, with the state law, and then also the charter that we have. So if there's any questions on that line, but.
Madam Chair, could we put that on, have the sheriff speak and put that on the record just for the benefit of everyone who's listening in summary form?
I can do it quick. Raise your right hand and I'll swear you in, and then you can be the sheriff.
I don't think you would do that, Tom.
No. So basically, if a sheriff leaves term early, and I'll be leaving 1 year early, this is my 4th term, I'll be leaving one year early. I have 89 days left. I'm not counting or anything, but then the board is in charge of making that appointment. That appointment can be anybody that the board chooses. Usually, the recommendation would be to have a certified officer of some sort. You just don't want to appoint, Amy, although she'd probably do a great job. No, she wouldn't. Sorry. So, and then if that person then sits in that position, he or she has to file and then run for the office of sheriff. If 2 people only file, then there is not a primary. There is only a general election, so that goes all the way to November. If 3 or more file, say 4 or 5 or 3 or whatever it is, then there is a May primary. The 2 individuals that have the highest amount of votes go on to the November election, and as a runoff. If one person out of those 4 or 5 or 3 that run gets 50.1%, then that person is the only name that shows on the ballot. However, they still can have a write-in at that time to, maybe the second place person still wants to run and so on. So you still have a little bit of, I guess, things that could occur here, but more likely than not, you'll have 2 or 3 people that probably run for this position, and we'll see where it goes. But for the time being, I believe Matt is more than capable. He's has accommodations, and he's done an amazing job. We needed somebody to run the jail 3 years ago, and he went over there without hesitation from patrol and took the lead and has done anything and everything to turn that place around. And obviously he's a very integral part of the building of the new jail, as is Chief Deputy Williams. So these 2, I have no qualms with leaving this all in their hands. And after 15 years of sheriff and 2 years of chief deputy, I feel it's time for me to step aside and let the youth and the $5 words take over. So
Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, could I ask County Council to weigh in? Because Sheriff, of course, we're all grateful for your service and wish you the best. You know that, really,
Thank
from
you.
my heart.
I believe you this time.
Thank you.
Just teasing.
But County Council, is there any impediment or anything ill-advised about our proceeding as the sheriff requests?
No, absolutely not. He's stated it verbatim.
And then there also will be an order prepared by the county manager's office for y'all on November 13th, I think is the next meeting. And then that would state that upon my retirement, Matt would be sworn in, Lieutenant Phillips, as the acting sheriff on January 7th, the following day, by a person of his choosing. Usually it's a judge in this type of situation, or it could be the county clerk or elections clerk, so on. So that would probably be up to Matt to go that route if that's who you choose, or to choose to put in there. So it's, there's a few loose ends that we need to tie up, but the order would be prepared for next meeting, and then y'all can either say yes or no, yay or nay, so.
Thank you.
Well, Sheriff, it must feel very good to leave knowing that we have fine, capable people to take over.
It really does. And, you know, I started this job, like I said, 35 years ago, and I said, oh, I'm going to do this till I'm 90. You know, I just love this job, and I still do love it. But, you know, even like last week or 2 weeks ago, my guys were in a elude from the bridge all the way down into Halem and then back up 53, and it's a pretty dangerous situation what they were doing. So I'm like, I'm going. So I got up, got dressed at 1:30, 2 in the morning, and went out and met them and you know, helped resolve the issue. And it wasn't because of me getting there. I'm just there to help them. When you come in as the head guy and you've got all these experts in the field, and you look at them going, yeah, they know exactly what they're doing. I'm going to stand back just to make sure. I'll be the guy calling the ambulance if something goes wrong, or, well, we already had an ambulance standing by, but things like that. And so I feel very secure in what my guys are doing. I've got about 80 employees throughout all the different, I guess, venues that I run. And I'm really happy that they are who they are and what they are, and they understand the philosophy of we're here to, you know, help, and we're here to get compliance. We're not out here to be a bunch of black glasses, dark gloves, and hitting people and all that kind of stuff. So I'm good with it, and I'm very proud of these guys, and they've done an amazing job, especially these two behind me. So.
Will we see you again before, will the commissioners?
Yes, ma'am. I won't be here November 13th, but I believe I'll be here for the December meeting. Okay. And then I'll probably see you at the swearing in if y'all are there. So if not, then God bless y'all. So.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Just one thing. I just wanted to say, I'm glad that you'll be back, so it won't be the last time to see you, but I do appreciate your service of all this, these years, and certainly remember when I was on the city commission in Warrenton and working with you after the storm and the aftermath of the storm, and all the preparations you took, all the work you did with opening up Highway 26 and making sure that that's something that we'd never have an issue with again. So you've done so much, and I appreciate all you've done, and certainly wish you the best in retirement.
Thank you, Mark. You've been an excellent member of this community, and I can't thank you enough. A lot of long days back then, but that was long hours. So. All right. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Business from the public. This is an opportunity for anyone to give a 3-minute presentation about any item on the agenda except public hearings or any topic of county concern that's not on the agenda. We just have one tonight. Debbie Booth-Schmidt.
Thank you, Commissioners. Debbie Booth-Schmidt. I live at 89919 Ocean Drive in Warrenton. With Sheriff Tom Bergen's announcement, the Board of Commissioners has the responsibility and opportunity to appoint a successor to serve until the next general election. AFSCME Local 2746 encourages the appointment of Lieutenant Matt Phillips as the interim sheriff. Lieutenant Phillips has exhibited superior leadership and unwavering commitment to the sheriff's office and to the community throughout his 18 years in law enforcement. He builds collaborative relationships within the agency, within law enforcement, and with community stakeholders. He has earned the respect of his colleagues and subordinates. He has the knowledge, skills, and character desired in a sheriff. He exceeds the qualifications required in the county charter for office. We recognize that the board has many options in making the appointment. You could wait until after the candidate filing deadline in March for the May primary. Waiting would leave the agency in limbo without stable leadership for months and possibly through the November election. Opening the appointment to applicants would also result in delay and wouldn't guarantee a selection of quality candidates. Neither option is in the best interest of the agency or the community. Lieutenant Phillips would bring stability, accountability, and improved morale to the sheriff's office. He is interested in serving as sheriff on a long-term basis, and he is invested in this agency and his community. AFSCME Local 2746 represents more than 100 county employees in the courthouse roads and an additional 200 members working in local governments and public service agencies in Clatsop County. Our members work in the sheriff's office, for other law enforcement, and for agencies that work with the sheriff's office. Most of our members live and vote in Clatsop County. The office of sheriff of Clatsop County is important to us. On our behalf, our members, thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Debbie. Well, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
So, oh, well.
Thank you. Who's this guy?
He's the big guy in the back.
The one who was looking down the whole time people were saying nice things to him. Okay, now we move on to the consent calendar, and I would like to move item 6D to the business calendar so that we can handle that in a different way.
So, Madam Chair, I move adoption of the consent calendar as amended with item 6D moved to the business calendar.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent calendar with moving item 6D to the business agenda 10, so it would become 10A. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any against? No. Okay, so moved. All right. Time for commissioners' reports. Commissioner Sullivan?
Thank you. I want to thank the Oregon Department of Forestry, or ODF, and the stakeholders, along with the Board of Commissioners, staff, and public for the successful listening session on the topic of the Norriston Heights timber sale held in the Guy Boynton Building September 30th. I especially like to thank our new county manager, Don Boone, for facilitating the meeting. Everyone, great job. Generally speaking, I would like to mention a few things about the Oregon Department of Forestry. There is good and bad news about the fire season. We had a miraculously reduced fire season this year. Everyone is grateful and hopes that it continues. There was also some news articles discussing the cost and payment of the catastrophic forest fires the state has experienced this past decade. I am supportive of finding funding from the general fund to help with ODF's operating budget. I know in this past legislative session, there was a request made for more financial support, but the request was unsuccessful. I also want to bring to everyone's attention what is happening in the Forest Trust Land Advisory Committee. The FDLIC Chair, David Yamamoto, has canceled the September 19th, October 25th, and November 22nd due to scheduling. Clatsop County was not consulted on these cancellations. I sent an email stating I took exception to the cancellations. I also noted again that the testimony of the FDLC chair presents, what presents to the Board of Forestry is not shared with the FDLC board in a timely manner. I continue to be concerned about transparency in process, and I have included a copy of the email I sent in response to the cancellations, which I will hand out. The state continues to work on the update of the forest management plan and to explore the possibility of a habitat conservation plan to secure revenue and conservation and reduce the exposure to litigation. The public meeting to update the progress on the HCP will be on Tuesday, October 15th from 1 to 3 at the PSU Smith Memorial Student Union, room 238 in Portland. I also want to thank Commissioner Thompson for informing this board of the public meeting, and I'm not sure what the title is, but it's on the waters of the state, being held October 23rd in Tillamook, and I look forward to attending. The Lynn County lawsuit is expected to go to trial later this month or early November. It has already cost the state of Oregon over $1 million. Whatever the result of this trial, it is expected to be appealed, extending the sad situation for years. And finally, I would like to thank the OSU Extension, Cedar, and the Hampton Lumber Company for the timber tour this year. The tour of the Warrenton Hampton Mill was enjoyable, interesting, and informative, especially thanks to Steve Zika, the Hampton CEO, and Lois Perdue of the plant manager for the time they shared with us. I was able to get some good photos and was happy to share them. And one aside, the Body Vox dance group coming to Astoria's Liberty Theater Saturday, October 19th for a special Halloween season performance has a connection with the Hampton family. Contact the Liberty Theater to get tickets, special prices for anyone under the age of 18, and costumes are encouraged. Come out and enjoy and support the arts. Thank you.
Commissioner Webb?
Commissioner Sullivan has taken away most of my stuff. Thank you.
I actually wrote something down this
No,
week.
and you, so it's, I'm sure it was much better articulated. The Forestry Tour was a really big success. It was wonderful to see so many different people from the community coming forward. That's always kind of exciting, I think, when it's not just the usual folks. I recently attended this week a conference in Garibaldi from the OCVA, the Oregon Coast Visitors Association, with whom I have been working for almost a year on the tourism studio. Unfortunately, I didn't know about what Extension Service did today. I never received any word about it. I don't know what that's about. I had to read about my fellow commissioner being there in the newspaper. I mean, I don't understand how those things get coordinated or not. The OCVA annual meeting was quite wonderful. We talked about implementing some of the tourism issues that exist on the North Coast. There were representatives of most of our DMOs, destination management organizations, and a lot was learned. Featured was our Clutchie Creek project with the partnership between the Bike Alliance. I can't remember which one it was, but anyway, the North Coast, I don't know. Anyway, and so Clutchie Creek was talked about in a presentation about the value of mountain biking as an outdoor sport to both tourists and to residents, and to forming an Oregon Coast Bike Trail, which, like the Oregon Coast Trail, the hiking trail is going to be very, very challenging to complete all the way from Astoria to the Tillamook line. But that's something you will be hearing more in the next couple of months. I'm hoping to have OCVA come and give a presentation to the board about the work that we've been doing. Next week, it hasn't gotten much publicity,
But on the 14th, next Monday, the CCO is doing an opioid summit at the Seaside Convention Center. I plan to be there all day. It's, as the CCO approached us about their funding application, this was an issue that they mentioned and that we encouraged them to pursue. And so I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be and I think that's it.
Okay. I'm glad you're going to that. Commissioner Quila.
Yes, I was at the OS, or the Extension Agents, University Extension Agents Conference just now, so that's where I was late for them. And I was sat on a panel. I assume that they asked me because I have a long standing relationship with the Extension Service back from when I had seafood business, and so worked with the Seafood Lab for many years and was invaluable to the growth of our business. And certainly also, I think with my relationship with the Chamber of Commerce and Visitor Center, I think I have that, the visitors tourism angle as well. And then also I'm a Beaver, so that's maybe why they asked me to. But it was a very good panel, and Senator Johnson and Mayor Jones and myself answered questions about what we felt like the Extension Service could provide to the tourism industry, or what kind of things we see for the future of a sustainable tourism industry in the area. I think Chamber of Commerce is working very closely with Travel Oregon in trying to develop some shoulder season and off-season events and things that will bring people here. We already know everybody's coming here during the summer. Let's get them here during the off-season. And let's also get a better distribution and have some destinations that are not just the normal ones, which are Astoria Column, Seaside, Cannon Beach, but I use the Clutchie Creek example as here's something that's a destination for mountain bikers, and possibly getting more people out into some of the timberlands. And thank goodness for Lewis and Clark Timberlands, and thank goodness for North Coast Trails Alliance that have actually worked to try to get people out to see this area. And really appreciated the tour that we got of the Arch Cape Water District on Monday, and the Rainforest Preserve. County manager and myself were able to see that firsthand, and which was, it really was impressive. I didn't know what it was exactly, how steep it was, the geological formations. I learned a lot about the development of the canyon of the Columbia River, and then that area as well. So it gave me a better appreciation, and I could see the value, since this has been something that's been traded a lot around from timber companies, because it isn't the easiest thing to harvest trees on and grow trees on. But the North Coast Land Conservancy is working to try to do outreach into the community to see what opportunities there are for other users, whether it's hunters, whether it's recreational users, to utilize that when they do take ownership. And certainly the most important thing is that they have some stewardship dollars that they can keep maintenance up on those roads and be able to do the forest practice thinning that they need to do. So yeah, really appreciated that, and really appreciated the panel and what they were able to do. It's a good conference, and they had folks from all over the country, Hawaii, and universities throughout the United States. So appreciated being a part of it. That's all I got.
The North Coast Land Conservancy has been working on that for many years, and Neil Main was very excited about it. I remember having a conversation with him many years ago about it.
Yeah, it certainly definitely leaves an impression by going out how steep everything is, and Onion Peak standing right before you. And yeah, and when we were up there, it was misting, so all of the water was collecting on the needles of the pine trees. And yeah, I think you said 40% of the water that is actually just comes from the mist and comes from the rain clouds up there.
Throughout the Coast Range.
Pretty cool, yeah.
And in the spring, the whole side of that mountain is purple.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a gorgeous view.
Thank you for taking the
Thank
time
you.
to go on that tour. I appreciate it.
And Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you. Commissioner Sullivan, thanks for your kind words. Water continues to be an issue. My own water board is having a meeting this Saturday, and we have some neighbors who've submitted data that refutes the assertions we heard here. So it's going to be very interesting because everybody has different data interpreted differently. And I've passed the information on to the county manager, so we'll keep each other informed. I wish I had known about that too, because that would have been interesting. So how do we keep each other informed? And I'm guessing that the clerk of the board will play a role in that in the future. So looking forward to that. The reason the forestry tour was exciting to me was because I had two industry leaders, Steve Zika and another one, talk to me about CLT. The reason CLT matters is because it makes technology the friend of the timber industry. It can help build our tax base so that we can afford to pay for community services. It can help provide well-paying timber industry jobs, forestry jobs for people here and around rural Oregon. So I'm working on making our board more visible, more credible, and more effective. To that end, I was invited to address the AFL-CIO. You remember you gave me authorization to speak for us. If you're interested in the remarks I presented to them, you can go to seasidesignal.com because they're online. It's also out in paper, but you're welcome to see what I said there. And I've had some positive response from that, and did also at the convention. I'm also working with a Deschutes County Commissioner to write another piece about the incoming cap and trade systems, so that what we're looking to do is to establish a collaborative middle ground where Oregonians can come together and talk about how do we deal with climate change and how do we pay the bills. So how do we have economy and environment working together, because that's really the deal. The AOC meeting is next Monday. I'll be going there. I'm not on the budget committee yet, but I will, after the first of the year, as district chair of AOC District 7, have a seat on the board and will be part of the budget committee. So if we have concerns, I'm eager to hear those. Always what I want is for us to get best value for the taxpayer dollars that we spend, and so making those relationships, first the networking, then the relationship building, then the collaboration. So looking to do that all over the state in a constructive way that benefits people here in Clatsop County. And that's enough for now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I attended the Public Safety Coordinating Council meeting, and we had a guest and a presentation from Leslie Ford from CARE Oregon on the overdose response team. CARE Oregon is not going to be confining only to healthcare, but taking a broader approach, trauma-informed care, housing. I'd be happy to hear that. Food insecurity, et cetera. As Commissioner Webb said, the opioid summit is October 14th at the Seaside Convention Center. Next month, the opioid program will be opening in Seaside. They will work with OHP folks, but they'll also, they're working to open it up to other people who have insurance, just not OHP. Let's see. Oh, at the opioid summit on October 14th, Dr. Mendenhall will be a speaker, and he's wonderful. I know him. There's going to be training for Suboxone administration November 4th in Tillamook. It's free. If you know any healthcare professionals that might take advantage of this, Suboxone also works for alcohol abuse. We need more providers to be able to administer Suboxone, and they have to be trained. Suboxone is an extremely effective medication for opioid addiction. I have known people whose children have been
addicted to oxycodone. Both of them were from injuries, and the physician prescribed. Rightly so, they were in pain from sports injuries. But they became addicted, and then they moved, when they could no longer get a prescription, they moved to heroin. So then, of course, it became very problematic. When the parents found, and I actually helped them find this, someone outside the area who could administer Suboxone, those children were free of their addiction within a day. They were able to then rebuild their lives and move into, well, they both achieved their college degrees now, and they're able to work, and it's a wonderful drug that's been used in Europe for decades. So if you know any medical people that could use training in this, that would be great. Let's see. Clatsop County, unfortunately, has the highest overdoses in the state. But the numbers are going down due to education of primary care physicians, and that has to do with prescribing opioids and the management of this. But we're also building out options for treatment. Something that was discussed is quick and easy access to Narcan to help prevent overdoses. I didn't understand, but I learned it can be administered nasally. I thought it had to be an injection, so really it's not so hard if people know how to do it. It's easier than giving an injection, I'm sure. So Care Oregon is asking those at the county and the Public Safety Coordinating Council to work with them to coordinate information and possible coordinated paths to prevent future overdoses. Some ways could be screenings at doctor's offices, ER rooms. Also, it seems to me that sequential intercept mapping is a possibility for an overlay to improve coordination in this area. Let's see. Well, I know we've all talked about medication-administered treatment at the jail. There's many parts to that, but I'm hoping that by the time the jail is built and we are able to help people, that we will have the ability to pay for the medications. Because, as we know, having them screened and get treatment, that while they're there, they're more likely to follow up afterwards when they're released. Oregon has lagged in services with housing for treatment outside of Portland, but the CCO is wanting to work toward getting this piece in place for rural Oregon. It's very good news. Understanding of trauma-informed care is paramount for treatment. And this, Leslie Ford said that now there is more money that is coming from the federal government for opioid treatment, and they're going after this. The rah-rahs, I don't know, have you all heard of the rah-rahs? Yeah. Amy Baker came up with this term, I believe, and they're a group of people who have recovered from addiction. They are recovery allies, and they help people in addiction. In May, they got 19 into treatment, and this is more than all the year prior.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. They build trust with those who are in addictions, and the rah-rahs do not give up. They go to the people's houses, they meet them on the streets, they help with blankets, they help with connections, and they're outside of professionals, and since they've been through this, they're trusted.
Madam Chair, when we acknowledge every spring a volunteer group, is there a way to get the rah-rahs nominated for that? Well, I mean, the sheriff's office is great at seeing that people get nominated, but I mean, this is, as you indicate, this is very impactful. So if we're looking to acknowledge a group of volunteers in the community, which we do every spring.
I think it's a good idea. I don't know. We can look into it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Alcohol kills more than all other addictions combined. So the CCO is hoping to expand from only opioid addiction overdose. And that's it. Oh, no, there's one more thing. I met with, oh, and I'm so sorry, I don't remember his name. But he runs, his name is Ron, I just don't remember his last name. He runs the Astoria Film Festival, and he asked...
Craig.
What? Craig, thank you, yes. And he asked me to distribute these if you would like. It's all access.
We would like.
Okay. It's all access to the film festival.
Oh, wow.
Is this something that has to be reported to the Ethics Commission on our?
That's what I wondered. Well, do we report the tickets to the fairgrounds for the?
But if this is worth more than $50, isn't it something that has to?
I have no idea what it's worth.
Is there some way to find out, the clerk or the council or somebody to find out? Because if I need to
It's
report.
generally about $5 admission and.
I don't think it's $50.
3 days and.
If I go to 10 movies, though, you see what I'm saying?
Go to 10, you might want to.
I just want to know what the parameters are for ethical behavior, because I want to honor them.
I don't know about this. Yeah.
What I
Thank you,
would
thank you.
suggest, if I may, Chair, is that we will confirm, just so you feel comfortable.
Okay, thank you.
Otherwise,
I
hooray.
should have asked. I didn't.
No, it's generous.
I was just
nature.
thrilled. Okay, now time for the county managers.
Chair Nebeker, members of the board, I'll be brief since a lot of you expressed tours and different activities that I was going to mention also. I did want to make a follow-up to the last board meeting where we talked about a letter of support from the North Coast Land Conservancy for the Rainforest Reserve. All board members were in agreement with the letter, and Chair Nebeker signed it this afternoon, so I just wanted to let you know that will be going out. I also want to just quickly commend staff for the amazing dedication and work that they display every day. And I'm not speaking just for the county manager staff, although I will say that they do a great job. But just my experience after 3 weeks here is that the Clatsop County staff is truly unique, and they do amazing work in the community. And I just think if I didn't say that publicly, I would be remiss. So just want to share that. Per some of the communication comments that sometimes come up about how we can communicate better and make sure that we're keeping everybody informed, we are having a meeting at the staff level to talk about developing a communication plan, which we'll share with you in one of our upcoming work sessions so that you can provide input, because we do want to do a better job and make sure that all of us have the information we need to be successful. So I just wanted to share that there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes, and as we have our one-on-one meetings and as we have work sessions, we'll be talking about a lot of those different areas. So that's it for me today. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's take a 5-minute break. Next, we have two public hearings. The first one is on the short-term rental ordinance update, and we all received this. Does everybody have this? There was a change. Okay. So we have staff report.
Thank you, Commissioners. Chair Nebeker. I'm Julia Decker. I'm the Planning Manager for Community Development, and I'm with you this evening because our director is out of the office today. And I think I will be very brief because this is just a housekeeping amendment to an existing ordinance. You approved Ordinance 1801, which was the adoption of short-term rentals countywide, short-term rental ordinance countywide, back in January of 2018. And with anything new, there are refinements to be made. We learn as we go. And so apparently we did some more refinements with Ordinance 1809 just a few months later in December. And we're coming back to you with a few more things. This time we've just got four revisions. One of them is on page 212, and this I learned today is kind of the Cannon Beach exception. It's just language that would allow us to have some things in place for the urban growth areas outside the city limits. There was some confusion originally as to who would be managing short-term rentals in that area. And Gearhart, for example, does not want to deal with short-term rentals outside their city limits. They would prefer that the county do it. Cannon Beach, on the other hand, would prefer to manage their own. So this language that we're adding here will actually take care of that issue and allow us to move forward with that. We also, on page 214, are looking to go ahead and have county staff in the Assessment and Taxation Department do the notifications of the within 7 days of the short-term rental permits to the people who are within 300 feet of the subject property. Apparently, it's a $100 fee. They do it within 7 days. Everybody gets their notice. They know they have the contact information that they need in the event of some sort of need to contact the rental owner. So anyway, this would be, we think, probably easier on the owners and just more quick and efficient for everyone. And then two other small things. One of them is on page 216, if the proposed short-term rental utilizes a non-public supply of water, then the applicant, property owner, must submit a water testing result for both bacteria and nitrates that have been taken within the last 90 days. That's just probably from the health department, I would guess. And issuing a permit for a rental unit is sort of, one assumes a certain level of oversight if you are renting something that has a permit attached to it, and that you have a safe, habitable dwelling. There are fire extinguishers, there's a smoke alarm, the water is drinkable, so that seems like a reasonable thing. Finally, they have, and I don't know if there's any backstory to this, so I'm not helpful with that, I'm sorry, but on page 217, under C, if a response is, this has to do with complaints. So if we receive a complaint, apparently now we are going to require that the complaint be signed. That may just simply have to do with requiring a little more commitment and accountability or transparency from the complainant. So those are the four issues. This is a first reading of an ordinance for you this evening, and then we'll return, I guess, probably to your November meeting for a second reading.
October 30th? October 30th?
Chair, I have a question.
Yeah, I have some.
On the signed, oh, sorry.
Well, so that would be at the next, in November or in?
I don't have the information in front. This
Chair
kind of,
Nebeker, it'll be October 30th.
oh, October 30th? Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't have the information.
That's what our sheet says.
I did not receive that sheet.
Ah,
See how we are, sorry.
That's okay.
yes, questions?
I just wonder if you could expand a little bit on that, it must be signed. Does that mean just a signature, or does that mean a recognizable person that could be contacted?
Usually with a complaint, what we're looking for is, at least in the code compliance world, is a signed complaint means that we have contact information and a signature so that we can verify that this is the person who filed it. We have had anonymous complaints in the past. They don't stand up very well in court.
Okay.
It's a little bit harder to verify. And also, if we have a telephone number, we have somebody we can contact back and ask more questions of.
Thank you, that's helpful.
Do these complaints go to court?
Sometimes.
Rarely, but occasionally, yes. Or a hearings officer, yes.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah. Do you all have any estimate about what it costs to analyze the water in some of these situations?
I do not. I don't think it's terribly expensive. I'm trying to remember the last time I had a water analysis done on a well. Personally, I think it was like about $45 or something like that. It was a long time ago, though, I have to admit. It may very well be more like $150 now, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's, yeah.
Other questions? Okay. May we have the first reading by title only?
By whom?
Well,
There she comes.
Okay, an ordinance adopting amendments to Chapter 5.12 Clatsop County Code to address processing and application requirements for short-term rentals within unincorporated Clatsop County, excluding Arch Cape.
okay. I will now open the public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please come forward, give your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Not yet.
Okay. So the public hearing will continue to October 30th. Now, the next, okay. The next public hearing is the sale of mineral rights to owner of property, transferring mineral rights to the surface owner. Staff report, please.
Chair Netbecker and members of the board, I came in front of you on August 28th to get approval to notice this request in the paper and set the date for public hearing for today. Brief history, Clatsop County retained mineral rights in 1958 in a property sold to Williners. Subsequently, that property has gone through several owners, and the current owners are Warrington Fiber, David Nygaard, and John Nygaard. John Nygaard, the secretary of the company, has made this request for the county to release the mineral rights in order for them to have a clear title on the property. The procedure for this is set in ORS 275.312 to 316, and it requires a public hearing and a notice in a newspaper of general circulation, and we have done the newspaper notice. This required notice is for 4 consecutive weeks, and it commenced on September 7th. Staff also obtained a mineral rights valuation from Horning Geosciences, and that report concluded that no mineral resource value under present or reasonable future condition exists on this property. And the report was attached to your agenda item. And the applicant will pay the county for all the costs incurred. They did give us a deposit of $1,000, and all the costs have now added up to $1,867.20, and staff has received a check for the balance of the mineral rights. So at this time, I am just asking the board to hear if there are any objections to the mineral rights transfer.
Are there any questions for staff?
I think it was an excellent report. It answered most of my questions. Thank you.
Good.
As usual.
Madam Chair, I wondered if we should nominate Tom Horning for some kind of lyric poetry award for this report. I swear, I mean, it's very clear that the mineral rights have no value, but it is stated in such beautiful prose on page 224 and 225 of our packet that I was swept away.
May we have the first reading by title only?
On this one, we don't have a reading. What it just asks to hear objections. So
Okay.
if hearing none, then staff is asking for the board to adopt the resolution and order approving the transfer of the mineral rights to the applicants and authorize the chair to sign the deed.
Madam Chair, I move that the board approve the transfer of mineral rights to the applicants and authorize the chair to sign the deed.
Second.
It is moved and seconded that the board approve the transfer of mineral rights to the applicants and authorize the chair to sign the deed. Is there any discussion?
I have a question of staff. County Council, is this simply a quick claim?
Yes.
This is all, okay. I didn't know if mineral rights, that's all. That was my question, that's it. Great
there-
staff report.
Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing no discussion, the question is on the adoption that the board approve the transfer of mineral rights to the applicants and authorize the chair to sign the deed. And the clerk will call the roll.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Yes.
Commissioner Webb?
Yes.
Commissioner Quila? Commissioner Thompson?
Aye.
Commissioner Nebaker?
Aye. There's 5 in favor and no against. So the motion is approved. All right, now,
Thank you.
yes, thank you. Excuse me while I shuffle some papers. Okay, now we move to our business agenda. We had moved item 6D from the consent calendar. So now we're going to we have candidates who have been suggested, but it's been brought to my attention by the parliamentarian that we need to nominate and then vote on, by Oregon statute, on these, well, for this particular board, the Board of Property Tax Appeals. And I'm trying to find my,
Page 115.
thank you.
Welcome.
All right. So we have 3.
Madam Chair, I had a question.
Yes.
I don't know if we can have a question before a motion has been made.
Oh,
So, given that, do you want me to make a motion, then ask a question?
I guess so.
I would ask a question of staff about how the recruitment process was handled, so I don't know if a motion is necessary in that regard. I wouldn't imagine,
I mean, normally you have a staff report before you do anything.
exactly, which is why I'm
You
thinking.
haven't had one on this.
So I'd like a staff report that,
Okay, well, we have the clerk.
yeah, that also includes a description of the recruitment process.
Certainly. Thank you, Chairman. Before you have the only candidates that have actually applied for the Board of Property Tax Appeals for this coming year. And we advertise beginning, I believe it was, I'm trying to remember, August, in the Daily Astorian, and on our website, it was posted that we were looking for people to apply for that committee. It ran, and they had until September 15th to reply. One came in early, and one came in right at the deadline. So now it's up to you guys to appoint the 3 positions. The board needs to be a minimum of 3, including the 1 commissioner. And that is all I have for you.
Madam Chair, I would have a question. County Clerk, I wonder if you reached out to the current members who have been serving?
One had, yes, you have passed your reign on as the chairman, and Dr. Mansfield is out of the area at this time for this year. And we did not reach out to Ozamano because we had the applicants come up.
Madam Chair, I would suggest as a matter of courtesy, if there are sitting members of a committee, that it would just be, I would say, good community relations to reach out to a sitting member, because I don't think Mr. Ozamano noticed that. I mean, not everybody in South County gets the Astorian. So I understand it's the local newspaper up here, and with all great respect, not everybody in South County reads it. So I just think it's a matter of good community relations to reach out to sitting members of a public advisory body when the advertising is going to happen in the Astorian, just as a maintenance issue.
Yes, however, their term did end as of July 15th, so
They might have been interested in applying.
He may have been.
And they are experienced.
Okay, so now we have time for nominations.
Well, if I may say one more comment about recruitment. I reached out to a few realtors that I know, and one of them sent it to the Association of Local Realtors. So
thank you.
Hopefully they're word of mouth in that direction, but wasn't fruitful, but we tried.
It's been a struggle in this county, from what I understand, since before I got here.
So I just have an information question. So how many members are there of this group?
There needs to be a minimum of 3 to hold the board meeting.
Okay.
That'll begin after the first Monday in February.
Okay. And so you just said something that implied that they have terms.
Yes, their term is from October 15th, which is, this has to be appointed, they have to be appointed by October 15th for the tax year, for the BOPTA to start, because that's where the tax rolls are supposed to be somewhat near completion.
Right.
And at that point, they serve until July, I believe it's July 1st or June 15th.
Of the following year.
Of the
So
following
it's
year.
A very short term.
Yes,
So
it
it's
is.
not-
Just to hear the hearings and make rulings.
I see. I think I support Commissioner Thompson's view that I'm not sure that's always clear, the terms of office are not always clear to the people who sit on our advisory groups. So it does seem like some effort should have been made.
So I have been given a script by the parliamentarian to follow for nominations.
Okay.
And the way that this will go, I believe, is commissioners can each nominate one, and then we vote on the candidates in the order in which they were nominated. And a majority vote is required to elect a candidate to an open board position. So I guess we.
Pardon me,
open it up for
Madam Chair.
nominations.
I'm confused. We have 3 positions, and we have 5 commissioners, so how does that work?
Well,
We have an opportunity.
I'm sorry, say it again?
We have an opportunity to nominate whoever we want.
You're not required to, but we have the opportunity. Okay, thank you, I'm clear now.
so
I mean, I'm not supposed to nominate myself,
no,
am
I wouldn't think so, and I don't. So where do I? I don't. I can?
Nominate yourself?
Oh,
I nominate myself.
Oh, you got a second.
triple it.
Okay, so Kathleen Sullivan. Okay. We can nominate all of them at the first, in the beginning, right?
Correct.
Yes, okay. So I'm looking for another nomination.
I'm sorry, I'm just confused.
That's okay.
So instead
haven't
of,
done
my
this.
understanding of this, Chair Nebaker, is that it's more, we are looking to nominate each individual one rather than
Yes,
do it as a slate?
yes.
Is that what we're doing here? Okay.
Okay, so we have a
So-
motion on the
So
floor.
we have one down, we have two more to go.
For Kathleen Sullivan.
And then do we vote?
Well, no, now we'll,
If we're doing it one by, then we
We
would
would
vote now.
vote, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
no, you can nominate, we can get all the nominations
Okay.
at once.
I heard we're not
Okay.
doing a slate.
So we're not doing a slate, or we are doing a slate.
It's not a slate. You do nominations, and then you do elections.
County council, could we have some advice from the county council here, who is our official advisor? What?
Oh, we're getting the
Help us out
names
here?
on a nomination form, and then we're going to go back and vote on them.
So you have these names here, under the motion in the consent calendar, if you want to just look at those names. And so first, Kathleen Sullivan was nominated, and would,
Okay, I move that the board appoint Greg Friedman.
okay. So now we have Greg Friedman.
Second.
Did you say I can nominate? Okay, I nominate David Oser. Or Oser?
Oser.
Oser, okay. So David Oser.
Second.
All right. Okay, so majority vote is required to elect a candidate to an open board position. We will now vote on nominee for Kathleen, nominee one, which is Kathleen Sullivan, and the clerk will call the roll.
Commissioner Webb?
Aye.
Commissioner Quila?
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson?
Aye.
Commissioner Nebaker?
Aye.
I vote for myself.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Yes, yes. Yeah, right with that.
Okay. The vote is 5-0. The ayes have it. Kathleen Sullivan is elected to the Board of Property Tax Appeals. Next, we have Greg Friedman. Clerk will call the roll.
Commissioner Quila?
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson?
Aye.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Aye.
Commissioner Webb?
Aye.
Commissioner Nebaker?
Aye. The vote is 5 in favor, 0 against. So Greg Friedman is now on the Board of the Board of Property Tax Appeals. And next we have David Oser. The clerk will call the roll.
Commissioner Thompson?
Aye.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Aye.
Commissioner Webb?
Aye.
Commissioner Quila?
Aye.
Commissioner Nebaker?
Aye. The ayes have it, 5 in favor. So David Oser is now on the Board of Property Tax Appeals. So I know this was awkward, but it's good practice for us going forward.
I have a question, if I may, while we still have the staff here. So normally, how large is this group?
3.
It's only 3? It's always only been 3?
No, pardon me, that's not accurate.
Since I have been here in the
Well,
last 2
but
years,
before you were here, there were more.
there can be
There
multiple,
were 5.
but the board is only consisted of 3 people at a time that hear the petitions. The other 2 are on standby if someone else to fill in for the one of the 3.
Also, there's like 3 boards, and then there's possibly 2 alternates.
Could be, yes, or
Right.
as many alternates as we need, or if there was enough petitions, we could hold 2 different sessions at the same time with 2 different boards.
Oh, I see.
The board
Okay.
consists of 3 people.
Okay, and the board needs to be in place by October 15th, which is
Correct.
next Tuesday.
Correct.
So if we didn't take care of this tonight, we wouldn't have a board.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on our business agenda is the purchase of a chip spreader from Pacwest Machinery LLC. 233 in your packet.
Good evening, Commissioners. So before you, we are asking for your approval to purchase a chip spreader for the Public Works Department. Chip spreader is used to surface roads. So you've probably heard of chip sealing, and we use this type of method on lower volume roads, and then also on our asphalt pavement for maintenance.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have a question.
I have a question.
You have a question too?
So I understand that we are getting this as County Curry's, had they bought it new,
Curry County?
Curry County, and now
Yes,
we're
they-
buying it after they used it?
No, we just used their contract. So they were purchasing a chip spreader and from the same company. And we piggybacked on their contract to purchase one for Clatsop County.
Is that like having membership to Costco? You go in with a friend and buy something?
Well, it's a good avenue for us to not have to go out for bids. We can just go through this because it's already been bid out. And then it helps, it's a cost savings. So a lot less administrative time to figure out all the ins and outs of this. And then piggybacking is a particular language we put in the contract so that we can use this contract to purchase the machine.
Okay, thank you.
That sound right?
There's a very set process in statute for piggybacking. Piggybacking is the actual term. And so when Curry County went out for bid, they had to say, this contract can be piggybacked, so anyone bidding on this, needs to be able to provide service throughout Oregon and provide this piece of equipment throughout Oregon. And so there was a fair, competitive bidding process for Curry County, and announced at that time that it would be open to anyone else in Oregon who happened to want a chip sealer. And then we go through the process of saying that we want to use their contract.
So it's cost savings and not reinventing the wheel?
Yeah, it isn't harming the public contractor's ability to bid. They had that opportunity when Curry County went out, and, it was fair and open, and they knew that there were going to be other counties joining the parade. And
Sounds like
so,
a very collaborative process, I like it.
yeah.
Terrific process for all over the state.
Thank you, that's a good explanation, I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
I had one more question too. Diesel, it's a diesel machine you're getting. And one of the components of the climate cap and trade or cap and invest or whatever climate change issues is diesel emissions. Do you have any sense of how the current requirements will fare under proposed new legislation? And you may not have any, but I was just curious about that because this is going to impact counties all over Oregon and businesses all over Oregon if those diesel emission standards require new expenditures.
Well, they are very expensive, dealing with the emission controls. That's what makes these vehicles much more expensive. Part of that expense comes with higher horsepower because you have to take care of all those emissions. So it's kind of a higher horsepower means more fuel. So you're burning more fuel, but burning up exhaust at the same time. So it's kind of a catch-22 with the emissions. And I'm not sure if it's good or bad.
Well, and I see by your gestures, it's a balancing act because of course we need to deal with the emission of greenhouse gases and all of that. And just looking at the cost that it takes to do that and the impact on public budgets and public services and public equipment. So thank you.
And it's my understanding also that currently that emission standards, that coast is exempt from that.
Well,
With diesel engines at this time.
Diesel trucks.
Diesel trucks, okay.
Because, that's another, actually, Could I request something of the county manager, actually, to add to your bucket list
Absolutely.
about how we're going to deal in the future with the, I'd love to see us, when we buy a vehicle, buy an electric vehicle. But anyway, the other question for you, Ted, is do some of these, you deal with a lot of pretty unique equipment. So some of these big guys, do they come in any other form than diesel?
No.
That's what I was afraid. See, that's
Even
what's going to
If you
happen.
dealt with batteries, then you've got to, with electricity, you got to deal with batteries.
Right.
And that's even, in some worlds, a even more difficult problem.
Exactly. I just think it would be nice to have a county policy that delves into.
And that's actually one of the other topics that will be coming to your work session on, is talking about an internal sustainability policy that would include that, so.
You're way ahead of us. And the cost.
I'd make a motion for the board to approve the purchase of 2019 Etnire chip spreader.
And this is the amount.
From Pacwest Machinery LLC in the amount of $318,725 and declare 1995 ED Etnire as surplus.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the board approve the purchase of 2019 ED Etnire chip spreader from Pacwest Machinery LLC in the amount of $318,725 and declare 1995 ED Etnire as surplus. Is there any discussion?
Oh, can I ask one more question? Is there any possibility that we're going to be able to sell this thing?
That we're going to do what?
That we would be able to sell this surplus thing?
Yes, we will. Mhm.
Really? Oh, good. Okay.
Is there any discussion?
Would you buy a used truck from this man?
Seeing no further discussion, the question is that the board approve the purchase of 2019 ED Etnire chip spreader from Pacwest Machinery LLC in the amount of $318,725 and declare 1995 ED Etnire as surplus. The clerk will call the roll.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Aye.
Commissioner Webb?
Aye.
Commissioner Aquila?
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson?
Aye.
Commissioner Nebeker?
Aye. 5 in favor, 0 against. The motion is passed. Thank you. All right, now we come to good of the order, which is for announcements and future considerations, but no discussions or debate.
I have a informational question. Would the county manager be able to give us any more information about the meeting that's taking place in Tillamook on the water? And are there any plans in place about, we're moving the meeting and all that, so.
Well, yes, so on the 23rd is the meeting down in Tillamook, it's a water education meeting, and it's from 12 until, it's an education meeting about water. It's at 12 o'clock until 5 o'clock, I believe, at the Extension Services. And so the board meeting has been moved to October 30th to allow for interested board members and staff to be in Tillamook, because I will also be down in Tillamook on that date. And so, I don't know if that answers your question.
Is there a county vehicle going down that we could all share a ride? Do you know?
I'm not sure, but I'm happy to carpool with anybody who's interested, so
So, as am I.
we can set something up for that day.
Thank you.
The only thing is that on the 30th, there's a panel discussion about, related to the Child Care Task Force at 6 o'clock. So I can't move that, so I'm hoping we can have our board meeting earlier on the 30th, earlier in the day. We used to have 2 board meetings a month, one at 10 and one at 6. So the board 5 years ago, changed it 5 years ago, just changed it to 2 nighttime meetings. So I'm hoping, I scheduled this meeting because I was going to be on the panel and needed to be there. So it starts at 6 o'clock. It's a community meeting. And I would be grateful if we could move the board meeting for us in the afternoon up to, say, 4 o'clock, so we could conduct any necessary county business, and I could participate in this panel. So we don't need to discuss that now. I'm just putting it out there so people know.
Well, it's our,
I don't think we'll have another.
I was going to say, we do have to talk about it now because we won't have another meeting.
The county manager can handle all the
What I would suggest is that I have individual meetings with the board members, and this would not require any kind of a board action. It just requires us noticing the meeting. So what I'd like to do is just have the opportunity to talk with the individual board members about the 30th, and then I'll follow up with everybody, and we will notice it accordingly.
Perfect. All right. Anything else? Meeting adjourned.
Already taken
Hotel.
Okay, no problem.
And I think this should do it. This is my registration for the 140. And see it stipulates. Okay?
That's all I needed. Thank you.
I'll have to sit down. Soon.
Sounds good.